I'm automatically unmuted. How about you guys?
Yeah, it says I've been unmuted.
Check. Yeah, I'm unmuted.
We're auto unmuted. All right. Well, the train is officially about ready to leave the station here tonight. Not quite in the late night hours, and no alcoholic beverages have been consumed yet, which is good news. But I am Nick Sisson in between a Matt sandwich here tonight.
Oh.
I'm the meat in the bread, so to speak, between Matthew King of the Eli Sports Network and Matt Evans of Evans Rankings, and of course Nick Sisson of N2 Media. I spent all day going over this bracket in every single tournament we got, and my wife was asking me, she's like, I thought you were only going to cover like 2 or something tournaments when you're in Yakima. And I'm like, no, sweetie, there's actually 12 state basketball tournaments coming up here over the next week and a half. And she's like, wow, how does everybody like stay, in tune with all of that? I'm like, it's insane. Like the guy in the bottom right corner of the screen here, I swear to God, like you've got to have like one of those, mousetrap game like contraptions to where you got like 6 gerbils in the corner, wheeling, and then something drops down on a string and types something in for you to keep up with all of this. But it has just been a roller coaster of a season, guys.
Oh yeah, it's this year has been. It's the first year I'll say it now. It's the first year I've actually done boys and girls basketball at the same time. Usually I'll do one and just rely on RPI for the other one, but this year I kind of simplified things, and it's it takes maybe an hour a night. It's been pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Glad we're here though. It's nice to be at the end of the season looking back.
Yeah, and then Matthew King, of course, calling at least 7 games in 6 nights for the Eli Sports Network throughout the season. He is the foremost authority on girls sports coverage. So thank you so much, Matthew, for taking time to be with us here tonight.
2A girls basketball, I feel pretty confident in, but you're giving me too much credit there. You're giving me way too much credit. Well,
the only reason why I'm here is to make you look good. So... me.
You got to work harder. You got to work
harder. That's why I love broadcasting with you, Matt, is because I don't have to try to make the other person, look good and knowledgeable. In fact, I think that you carry the load between the two of us.
If it was your job to make me look good, then why'd you put out that video for Anacortes in football?
By the way, final score in the 2A state championship football game: Anacortes 20, Tumwater 10. Book it.
Okay.
Still lives today. The T-shirts should probably be on the way by next season, we'll say. So, yeah. All right. Well, again, as it says in the description on the channel you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, we are going to dive into the state basketball tournaments all the way from 1B all the way to 4A, boys and girls. We do have a live stream comment section. Be sure to type in where you're watching from and who you're rooting for. And then also your questions, comments, concerns for your hosts. And if you have any gripes that you want to air out, your grievances, so to speak, you're not limited to 160 characters like most everybody is on Twitter. So I guess that's probably a good place to start. I know that we kind of joke around about we're going to get this off the tracks at some point here, which is just a given. When you got 2 Husky fans and a Cougar on the show, something's definitely going to go awry here. But the state basketball tournament has really sparked a lot of controversy, we'll say. I wouldn't say like anything like I commented on Matt's tweet about burning a village down. I don't think that there's really a whole lot there. But, there are a lot of teams that are sitting at home right now, guys, that, could have had a better path to possibly getting into these postseason playoff rounds and the regional round. And that's another topic in itself, is the regional round. But I know the WIAA has a really tough job to do, and trying to figure out where these teams should be slotted, and, where the bids should be allocated to. I feel like I should open the floor up to both of you guys first, and just to see where you're at in terms of how the committee did, some things maybe you like to see change down the road sooner rather than later, or some things that have come up that really aren't a big deal to you. I'll let you guys draw straws to figure out who wants to go in first.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to start off with the seating. I think the seating was actually pretty solid this year. I get that there's always going to be some teams you look at. You could say you flip Seton Catholic boys for me is the one that stands out. I thought they'd be better than a 6 seed. But again, you're really just having a tough time splitting hairs there. The one thing is I think we saw a lot of this year is those districts that got their bids cut down, and those districts probably shouldn't have. You know, you look up north with Burlington Edison girls not making it, and then you look over on the east side, Grandview boys. You can go up and down. There's plenty of examples for that. So I think that is something that needs to be looked at more than I think these seating committees. I actually think this is one of the better jobs the seating committees have done. The fact that we're seeing so many of these teams not make it. Clarkston girls, another one. It's really a shame that arguably top 10 teams are watching the state tournament from home.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that we've seen this week, there have been a lot of good articles written about possible reformatting of how do we do the state tournament better. And I think Tim Martinez had a really good article down there in the Columbian this last week. And it's something that they do. It's kind of similar to how they do it over in Idaho, where except over there every classification goes to Boise. There's only 8 teams in each tournament, and they'll play Thursday, Friday at the high schools, and then the championship games are at the Idaho Center in Nampa, while the consolation games are still at the high schools in the area there. And I kind of like how they do that there. Obviously our state's bigger, we've got a lot more teams in our state tournaments. I don't know if going to one centralized location would work, but I like the idea of potentially making a first round 1 versus 16, all that stuff at like local schools, and then we move the quarterfinals into a big dome or whatever. It was a well-written article. As for the seating committees and stuff, I agree. I think they did a great job. Obviously you can look through and see where your gripes are, but for the most part, you've got some really interesting matchups. I know that some schools may have been seeded slightly different to avoid league matchups in the first round, maybe to potentially, if they win, try to avoid in the second round. Obviously that's stuff that's taking into consideration. I think that as we're moving forward, when you look at the case this year of the Burlington Edison girls and of the Grandview boys and of the Clarkston girls, I think we need to look into a model where we need to make the district tournaments mean something. There were a couple other ones where teams who won in their district tournament, who got to the championship game and maybe lost, got seeded lower than schools that they beat in the semifinals and previously. We need to make the district tournaments mean something. And I think what we should look into going forward is, if we're going to keep a 16-team tournament, let's do it. Let's give each district one auto bid, your district champion, and then from there we look into an at-large system. I don't think that we put that all in the seating committee. I think that the seating committee should just do seatings. I think selection should be done in another way, whether that be an average of computers, whether that be, an average of poll, just something. We can figure that out down the road, but I think we need to look into a way to if we're going to have the best teams compete, we need to have the best teams compete.
Yeah, I think I'm right on track with where both of you guys are at. A little of each argument, I think, just kind of fills in between my ears where I'm at. Ultimately, I'd like to see some teams in this tournament that are on the outside looking in. You've already mentioned Burlington Edison for the girls, Clarkston for the girls. I'd go to the boys' side, the Grandview Greyhounds, to spend the entire year at number 2. Yep. And then, you play a really tough schedule. You play a really tough team in districts. You get knocked down to a 3 spot. Now you're traveling in a glue game against the number 1 West Valley Spokane, a team that, played a pretty tough schedule up and down if you considered the 2B boys that they ended up taking on this season. You got to give West Valley a lot of credit for winning the game. Obviously, you'd hate to see Grandview out of the tournament when you look at some of the other participants that ended up making it because their district just simply allocated more bids. I would be okay with a combination of either, an entire classification tournament called like March Madness, essentially. I mean, I think that that's a little wild in some classes when you start really thinking about the one versus the bottom team, and then you're going to somehow like make this a competitive tournament all the way through and through. And if you're going to eliminate the district portion of it, I don't really think I would like to see that a lot, but I would like to see, I think, the amount of guaranteed bids dropped to maybe 2 per district if we're going to keep districts, and then utilize the at-large system. I think you're right, Matt, about the computer aspect of it can really do a lot of the hard work for us. I would maybe ask for a couple of tweaks. The first tweak on my wish list is I would like a higher emphasis on head-to-head wins. There were a couple different RPI rankings throughout the year that we saw where a team had beaten another team twice, and yet they may be a spot below or a spot above that team. Yeah, in totality, if you look at who they all played, I mean, opponent win percentage, opponents win percentage, you can go through the algorithm and you can find different, different things you want to nitpick between the two teams. But I think head-to-head should just carry a little bit more weight. We did see in the seeding a couple teams that won 2 out of 3 against an opponent this year, and they're actually seeded lower than them. That's one aspect that it was kind of disappointing at. But for the most part, I really didn't have a problem with where everybody was seated. I think that, the one place that I would look at, maybe the 4A or the 3A boys, with where Auburn Mountain View ended up at and losing the last game against Lincoln. You saw Lincoln get all the way up to 6, and then Auburn Mountain View at 11, and Bellarmine above them as well. And there was some splits between the two teams. I would have probably had Auburn Mountain View a little bit higher in that 3A bracket, but for the most part, I'm okay. If you guys want to retort to that before we deep dive, that'd be great.
And that's why I would want to keep the seeding committee aspect of it, because I don't believe computer should ever straight seed a tournament. I don't believe that's the case at all, because you get those situations where Davis girls go down the road, beats Union, beats Camas, and the computer has Davis below them because their league is weaker. And that's one of those situations where computer's wrong, and the Davis girls should not be punished because the computer thinks that they're because the computer's algorithm doesn't favor them. So, I would like to see, the computers used as the thing to select the at-larges, and then from there, then the seating committee gets there. Here are your 16 teams, and then they go through and do the process that we currently have right now.
Anything to add, Matthew? We all
no, I'm
good
gonna
on
follow
that.
Matt Evans on anything that has to do with the rankings. He's going to lead the way, and I'll just follow.
Yeah.
Again, we do have a comment section. Corey on Facebook is watching and types in honest opinion on how the 2A GSHL stacks up with the other leagues. I mean, if we're just talking around the 2A class, I think the top 4 are as competitive as any other 4 around the state. I think the bottom 4 are as bad as any other bottom 4 in the state, so there's a big difference between the drop off between 4th and 5th, and we saw the Greater St. Helens League end up getting all 4 bids. Matthew, we were talking about that throughout the year, and we both had a hunch that could be the way that it ended up being, and I'm not so shocked about that. I will say though that top to bottom, the Northwest Conference is extraordinarily tough. They got some really tough 1A teams, and the CWAC is also very difficult to win. The District 2, the District 3s are a little bit more of the unknowns, but with Bremerton and Bainbridge and Squim, they're 3 pretty tough teams, and you throw in a couple others in there, an Olympic. There's some teams that can get some wins there. So I'd say they're probably in that 2nd to 3rd-ish range. I mean, top to bottom.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you threw in the Olympic, because we got to cover some of the District 3 2A with Clover Park being a part of it, and I think they've had a really, really good season. I think you're always going to have leagues that have those great teams, and you're going to have the teams who get beat up by those great teams and are going to be the bottom tier. It's impossible to really compare those bottom tiers because we never get to see them play each other. But yeah, I think the GSHL is right up there with the Olympic, with the Northwest Conference. There was a lot of great leagues, and there was a handful of really bad leagues in the 2A this year, and that's just how it played out.
All right. So, guys, I think that we should probably structure this a little bit. I was thinking we would do it in terms of venue. So maybe do Spokane first, and then we'll move on from there. We'll decide where we want to go with it. But I know there's a lot of people who are interested in the 2A boys and girls brackets, and I kind of want to save that for last, just because I think that is
Right there with
I
you.
think
Yep.
I think that's the toughest class to figure out this year. So, let's start with the girls for 1B. All right, this is where Matthew King's strong suit is really going to play right here. So, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to rattle off the teams and the seeds, right? And then we'll talk regional matchups, and we'll go quick through those. And then I'll say, how about we each talk a little bit about our favorites, our sleepers, and then how about our champion? If there's a team that you think makes a run that gets a trophy that deserves some extra credit, feel free to give them the flowers, so to speak. All right, number 1 seed is Nia Bay. Number 2 is Waterville Mansfield. Number 3, Garfield Palouse. Number 4, Yakima Tribal. Number 5, Welpinit. Number 6, Inchilium. Am I pronouncing that right, Matt?
I believe it's Inchilium, I believe.
Inchilium.
That's
Mr.
how I
Marks,
say it.
let's do it first. No, sorry. We got to keep our viewers here. You got to come back later. Number 7 is PL. Undefeated, by the way, PL. Number 8 is Pateros, the Nannies. Oh, that's such a great name. Number 9, Lummi Nation. Number 10, Oaksdale, the Nighthawks. Number 11, Sunnyside Christian. Number 12, Cross Point Christian. Number 13, Wilbur Creston and Keller. Number 14, Elmira Cooley Heartline. 15, Tahola. And 16, Muckleshoot Tribal. So, yeah, that's awesome. Men's league game at 8:45. Hey, man, we'll see how we speed through it. That's for sure. All right, let's start with one of you guys. Matt, I'll have you go first. You know a little bit more about the smaller schools. There's a lot more in your neighborhood here, but out of the 16 teams there, who do you think is going to be the favorite or favorites to win?
Well, I think that Nia Bay is the favorite. Obviously, is the 1 seed. That's kind of the easy thing to say, but Nia Bay is just an absolutely dominating program in girls basketball. I mean, they have a game against Waterville Mansfield on the road this year, and they beat them by 15. They have a game on the road against Pateros this year, and they beat them by 22. This team does, and they have their only loss on the season, 2 points to Rainier. I mean, this team goes out, they schedule tough, and they make sure that their girls are ready to go. They are, in my eyes, the clear favorite to win this tournament.
Yeah, I'm right there with them. They've won the last 2. They could have won 3 in a row. They had the lead a few years ago against Mount Vernon Christian, who's now a 2B program, but they lost that one late. It's the same roster that's been there, done that. So they've got the experience. They've got a ton of talent on that roster. They can score at all levels. They defend. They play fast pace. It's just a complete team. It's kind of like the Colton that we saw go on the run. Right now, it's just Nia Bay's time.
I'll make it a sweep. Yeah, I mean, Matt, you already said it. 20-1, with the only loss being to Rainier, and Rainier's the number 1 seed in the 2B girls bracket. So pretty easy to point to who the favorite's going to be. After that, though, I think if we're looking at the next 6 teams between Waterville, Garfield, Palouse, Yakima Tribal, Welpinit, Inchilium, and PL, I mean, you got a jumble there of any team that could possibly join Nia Bay in the championship game. I'm not going to, make a crazy pick and say that someone's going to beat Nia Bay, because I didn't, but I would make it a 3-peat for Nia Bay this year. Let's talk about maybe who we think we got in the championship game along with them. Matt?
So, as we all expect, I have Nia Bay in the championship game. I have them taking on the number 3 seed, Garfield Palouse. And are we going to talk about our champions now, or are we going to come back to those?
We could talk about them now. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna say it. I have Garfield Palouse winning. Garfield Palouse has a young lady, 6'1" guard named Elena Flansburgh. She's a junior. This kid is something special. Playing down at the 1B level, and if she with that size, with her maneuverability, I think that she's going to be tough for teams to be able to contain. The other thing that's wild about the top 3 seeds here, all of them have just one senior. So these schools are going to come back, and these teams are going to come back strong and tough next year. But yeah, I'm going with the upset. I'm going Garfield Palouse over Nia Bay.
Okay.
I'm not happy with Matt Evans to start this one because I thought I was going off the rails. I also have Garfield Palouse over Nia Bay. So when you watch Garfield Palouse, they're very young, and you look at their roster, and they don't have absurd height, but then you watch their players on the court and they have those wingspans. They play really, really good defense. I think they're a team that matches up with Nia Bay better than anyone else in this classification. And I thought I'd get a little froggy and pick the upset right out of the gate, but obviously I'm not going to separate from Matt Evans too much. But I think those two teams are both nightmare matchups for Waterville Mansfield, who's kind of the third team I could see making that championship. I think the Shockers would just have to be on their A game to knock off either of those teams. Well, I think Garfield Palouse and Nia Bay, I think those are the two most talented teams. And, man, they're both tricky to deal with. And I think that'd be one heck of a championship.
Yeah, well, I'm boring. I went with Nia Bay and Waterville Mansfield in this one. Waterville Mansfield seems to have a pretty manageable path to getting to the championship game, with a game against Pateros, a game against Yakima Tribal, which, is going to be a tough game, by the way, if, most people know that. But I'm going with Nia Bay in that for a three-peat, just too much experience. And like Matt said, one senior on each Waterville and Garfield Palouse. To piggyback on what you two guys are going on with Garfield Palouse, only the one senior, their only losses are to Yakima Tribal and Colfax, and they do have 5 wins over tournament teams. So, the writing's on the wall for Garfield Palouse that, they could contend all the way down to the final day. Let's go with, let's go with a sleeper, a team that we think maybe could make some noise that, who knows, is not maybe being thought of neither one of us maybe has in the championship game.
I got a couple double-digit seeds.
I could go first. Yeah, go deep, man.
I looked at this as which team can I see getting a trophy, making that run. I like both Elmira Cooley Heartline and I like Cross Point Christian. I think both of them have just momentum on their side, and getting that chance for ACH to play that game already on Tuesday night, and they just went off. They can score in the blink of an eye so quick and blow things open. I like both those teams. ACH gets to play Sunnyside Christian, or I shouldn't say gets to. It's not like that's a fun matchup. But if they get to Spokane, I think that's a team that'll be red hot and can really surprise people with how quick they can score.
I like that ACH pick there, but my sleeper team is Lummi Nation at 9. That's a team that has played some really tough teams seeded higher than them close, and if they get hot shooting, and I think that they can, I think that they, and that's a theme you're going to see from me, the 9 seeds. Like, for some reason, I'm in love with 9 seeds, and we'll see that over the course of the night.
Yeah, in terms of the winner to state loser out games, I also had Lummi Nation, 22-4 team. All 4 of their losses are to teams that are in the tournament. Nothing to sneeze at. If I'm going to go a little bit, I guess, more reasonable in terms of really making a deep run, I'm looking at Welpinit. Welpinit being 21-2 as a 5 seed. Their only losses to Inchilium and Yakima Tribal. They've got 9 wins over teams that are playing in a tournament, whether that's 1B or 2B, and they've only got 2 seniors also. You want to add that team to the list for next season, with a 21-2 record. I would not be overlooking Welpinit in this tournament. All right. So we can either stay with the girls and just go to 2B and then go back to the boys for Spokane, or we can jump right over to 1B boys. What do you want to do?
I'm good with sticking with the girls.
Okay. I like that too, because this is a good bracket here. And I know that Matthew King has seen a few of these teams so far this year, and I bet you that it's going to be really tough for him to decide who he's going to go with. Maybe it's super easy. I don't know. But number 1 seed is Rainier and number 2 seed Adna, both from the same league. And then you got number 3 Brewster, number 4 Reardon, number 5 Napavine, number 6 Mount Vernon Christian, number 7 Clayellum Roslyn, number 8 Northwest Christian Colbert, number 9 Mabton, number 10 Liberty, number 11 Columbia Burbank, number 12 Colfax, 13 Tri-Cities Prep, 14 Mossy Rock, 15 Okanagan, and 16 Sarah LaConner. I'm really excited for how this bracket is going to play out. I think that there's a lot of different possibilities here, some really good teams. And I know why you're in love with 9 seeds, Matt Evans. So looking at the Mabton team that's got 9 wins versus tournament teams, 3 of them are to Clay Ellum, who's obviously seeded a little bit higher than them because they've picked up a lot of wins so far this year. But let's just start with our favorites, and then we'll do some contenders and such here at 2B. Which one of you gentlemen wants to go first?
I think it's kind of funny, the 2A girls and the 2A boys. If you looked at the rankings all year, 2A boys, it was like D5, D6, just all the way down the top 5s. 2B girls, it's like D4, pretty much the top, just the top half of that. And I think D4 is where you got to look. I think Adna and Rainier are the favorites. I mean, I don't see anybody else playing at the level that they're playing at. And after their pretty awesome district championship game, I think that, we're in line for another classic at the arena.
I was lucky enough to call those 2 teams playing twice this season, and I agree. I understand Rainier, that district championship was for the 1 seed. They were getting that 1 seed. Adna had a weird night in that game. They were up into the 4th quarter. They looked like clearly the better team, and they just went ice cold in the 4th quarter. They couldn't buy a bucket. Rainier caught fire. Angelica Askey didn't even really have to score for Rainier, and she is their scorer. She had 3 points, I think, in the game. They have a 6'1" 8th grader on their team next to this, and I don't know if you saw that, Lexi Beckman. She is unbelievable. The lights kind of threw her off early in that district championship. She had happy feet, was traveling like crazy early in the ball game, and then she really got going. Bryn Beckman had some big buckets. Late in that game, Brooklyn Swenson got hurt. I'm not sure how serious of an injury it was, but she didn't come back in. Again, it was in the 4th quarter, so that probably had something to do with it. But I think it's Adna and Rainier, and then I think it's everybody else after that. I think those 2 are destined to meet in the state championship for one last meeting before that Adna group of seniors moves on.
Yeah, again, 3 for 3 between the teams that are contending. I just want to throw in a quick note here. Adna at 21-2, they've got 11 wins total on their resume against teams playing in a tournament, and 10 against teams ranked that play in a higher classification. You want to talk about challenging yourself for this moment. I think that Adna has laid the foundation from start to finish to have a realistic chance of taking home the gold ball this year over in Spokane. And, a split with Rainier this year. If you look at Rainier, they lost to White River, a 3A team, a couple classifications higher than them. And Matthew and I were talking, White River, what if they were still in 2A? Oh my goodness, But, if you look at the wins that Rainier's gathered this year, they beat Mountain View, right, who's a 3A tournament team. They beat Seton Catholic, a 1A tournament team. They've beaten Brewster. They beat Nia Bay, the team that we talked about a little bit ago for the 1B girls. It's hard to argue that anybody else is going to have a shot between those 2 teams. In fact, I'll just lead us right into it. That's who I've got playing in the state championship game, and I'm going to go with the Mounties. I'm going with Rainier in this one to win the gold ball.
I am going with Adna in this game. Basically, it's just they've. I mean, all I really I watch games. Obviously, I spend a lot more time looking at the numbers and stuff. Adna had by far the biggest margin from first place to second place in any of the classifications this year. There were points in this season where Adna was number one and they had a tenth of a point lead, which is unheard of in my stuff. I've never seen a team with that big of a lead in their classification. They are just, in my opinion, they are hands down the favorite in this. And yeah, I'm going with Adna.
Nick, you mentioned Adna had that loss to White River. Who's the 3 seed in the 3A state tournament? So that's insane that they even played. I once again am agreeing with Matt. I think Adna takes home the Nets. I think that loss to Rainier might have been worst case scenario for Rainier. I think if Rainier would have lost that game, it might actually have helped them out a little bit more because Adna would have still had that confidence. Carson Freeman is the best player in this tournament. No disrespect to anyone else. She's a walking bucket. It's honestly incredible to watch. A special player, but they've got 3-point shooting. Gabby Guard's gotten a lot better throughout the season. Danica Hallam can knock down threes. McKenna Torrey was a huge transfer from Mossy Rock that's coming off the bench for them. But I think Bailey Chapman is the key player in this one. She is just a defensive menace. She's going to play post. She's not going to light it up. She's not going to go out there and drop 20 points, but she's going to get every rebound. She's going to completely take away Lexi Beckman. And Carson Freeman and Angelica Askey, just watching those two play one-on-one is a special treat. But I just think there's too many shooters on that Adna team, and I'm worried about Brooklyn Swenson's injury, so I'm going to take the Pirates.
Okay. Any surprises in terms of who you've got playing on Saturday or teams that we should look out for?
Not really for me. My Saturday 6, I've got Adna, Rainier, Napavine, Reardon, and then Brewster, Mount Vernon, Christian. So I mean, not really anything to that kind of jumps off the page.
I mean, I think first of all, Napavine's got a little bit of a disrespectful chip on their shoulder because they're the reigning state champions and they're just kind of being cast aside for their league mates. But I think that's a team who no one should want to play. I don't think Rainier or Adna would be comfortable playing against a team with Hayden Cout and Taylor Evander, and they could give anyone problems. But if you want to look for a team to buy some stock in, I don't know if they make it to Saturday this year. Clallam Roslyn, that team is young, and they've got a lot of talent. I got to watch them play in Adna. They're going to play Adna again on Saturday. That's a team that you need to keep your eye on over the next handful of years.
Yeah, they've got some really tall young kids too. They've got Nellie Nichols, 6-foot sophomore. You got 2 5'10" juniors and a 5'10" sophomore. Like, man, that's some serious size there.
Yeah, 18-5 for Clallam Roslyn this year. Only one senior, 8 wins versus tournament teams. Matthew, you mentioned Napavine, 19-6. All their losses are to teams that are ranked higher than them, so they've played a tough schedule playing in District 4, but that'll happen just kind of naturally with your league schedule. They are a team to look out for. Their matchup against Reardon, right, in that first regional matchup, man, Napavine's a team I think that can go travel with some experience and go pick up a win there. I did pick the Eagles of Reardon to win that game, but I think I had them meeting. No, they did. I had Reardon and Brewster playing on the Saturday in the 3rd, 5th game, but I do have Napavine finishing 4th with a win over Mount Vernon Christian. So I think that they're in the conversation of taking home a top 4 trophy this year. All right. So the Spokane girls between 1B and 2B have now been gone through. And now it's time to go through the 1B boys. Number 1 is Elmira Cooley and Heartline. Number 2 is Lummi Nation. Number 3, Willapa Valley. 4, DeSales. 5, Nia Bay. 6, Tulalip Heritage. 7, Moses Lake Covenant. Number 8, Acosta. Number 9, Welpinit. 10, Muckleshoot Tribal. 11, Wakayakum. 12, Garfield Palouse. 13, Sunnyside Christian. 14, Summit Classical Christian, and then a couple of upsets. 17 is Sound Christian, and then 18 Riverside Christian. A lot of Christians, and I like the Classical Christian getting thrown in there as well. That's good stuff right there. Guys, I think it's pretty simple here. With Elmira Cooley Heartline being 22-1, their only trip up of the season was to another 9 seed, the Well-Pennant Redskins. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any real gripes with the bracket here, and I think that Elmira Cooley Heartline is going to be the clear favorite here in the tournament. But going through all of my notes here for what we got, Lummi Nation 6 wins versus tournament teams. They've got 5 seniors on the roster. Their only loss in class was to Tulalip Heritage. And then DeSales is a little bit younger as a number 4 seed, 22-2, only 2 seniors on the roster. And their only losses are to Elmira Cooley Heartline and then Lake Roosevelt by 2. I think that in Lake Roosevelt, for those who don't know, they're a 2B tournament team. I think they're 5th in that bracket off the top of my head. And then Tulalip Heritage 20-3, 6. I think that you've got a pretty open field here, honestly, by the time we go through this tournament on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be the team that kind of jumps off the page at me that I'm intrigued to see how they do this weekend is WIAA Valley, because I'm not really sold on D4 at the 1B level on the boys side. And, WIAA Valley is they've raked off, 20 plus straight wins, but I don't know. I look at the team, I look at what I've seen, and I'm just not 100% sure. And they're playing a dangerous team in Tulalip Heritage too. That's definitely a team that, you can't really take for granted. In fact, you can't take anybody lightly in this day and age. But that's going to be the thing that's going to be really interesting to me is WIAA Valley, and are they for real, or is D4 just a smoke show for 1B this year?
WIAA Valley is kind of a live by the 3, die by the 3 program over the years, which is great in high school gyms, but you get in that open air arena, and it seems nobody can shoot to start the tournament. So they're definitely a team to watch out for. Just if they get hot, they can play with anyone. They can beat anyone, I think. I think DeSales and Nia Bay, that to me is a phenomenal game right out of the gate. Nia Bay might have the best offensive team in the tournament. But again, it all depends on, can you hit those jumpers when you get to these big arenas? And I've seen it just fail too many times to where I'm confident in picking one of them to go and run the table. And ACH is red hot, but Lummi Nation, guys. Lummi Nation is a team. Jerome Toby, I got to watch him play as an 8th grader, and he looked like he belonged there. I can only imagine how much better he's gotten. He's a walking bucket, can blow past you very, very quick. I think Lummi Nation is kind of the team to watch out for in this tournament.
Okay. Yeah, to piggyback on Matt, with WIAA Valley, only 2 seniors on the roster, and their wins that they've had, they do have 6 wins against tournament teams, but they're Acosta and Wahkiakum.
Yeah, how many of those are Acosta?
Yeah, 3, and then Wahkiakum is 3. Outside of that, they don't have a lot of tournament experience, with some of the teams that they're gonna take on here, and I think that there's a good handful of teams that are going to be a problem, for WIAA Valley, especially with what Matt just said about, living by the 3. That whole mindset, it doesn't translate very well when you play at the Dome. The court's just a little bit longer as well. Your legs are a little bit more gassed by the time you get late in the game, and the jumpers, when your legs start feeling like Jello, they don't fall quite as much. You got to figure out a way to generate some easy buckets here. But I like the field here. I think, I like to play. Would you take one or the field? I wouldn't put my money on one team in this bracket. I would take the field easily, because I think it's just going to come down to matchups, and who ends up upsetting who. And you're probably going to have, maybe maybe a Welpinit at a 9 seed. You know, I could see them getting it to the double elimination portion of this tournament. And, you know, even if we're going deeper than that, I mean, you know, Summit Classical Christian, a 14 seed here. You know, it's not just a fun name to say because you haven't heard of them before, but 22-4 as a 14 seed, 5 wins versus tournament teams. They have a head-to-head over Wahkiakum, the team that they're going to play to get to Spokane. They beat them by 17, guys. You know, if you go up and down this bracket, I think you're going to find matchup problems for just about every team.
Yep. I've got Summit Classical making it to Friday. Not quite Saturday, but I'm playing on Friday. I'll just go on for championships here. Almira Cooley Heartland Lemmy Nation. That's my final. Lemmy Nation's my champ. You know, like you said, Matthew. Jerome Toby is a beast, man. And if that kid can take over games, and you know he's been here before, he knows how to do it, and yeah, I think Lemmy Nation is the team to beat.
I promise I'm not just copying Matt Evans. I've got Lemmy Nation, but I don't have them beating ACH. I got them beating Nia Bay, actually.
Okay.
I think Nia Bay has a 5 seed. Again, they can score in bunches. They're a tricky team to deal with because of their speed. They're kind of like the girls team. They just play fast constantly. I've seen this group of players play a few times in the last handful of years. They're a fun team to watch. They play defense. They really take pride in getting out in transition, attacking. They like to just play all gas, no breaks. I think that they can get to the championship. But again, I just think Lemmy Nation is a team that's kind of dialed in right now, and they know this is their year to really go out and send a message.
Once again, I got to be, you know, the contrarian and opposite of you two lovebirds here, the Matt Sandwich, you know. Guys, Almira Cooley Heartline lost early. You know, they've just been rolling through everybody, and the only team that they lost to, Welpinit, they did lose by double figures, which is a head scratcher. But I think it was the first game of the season, or for Almira Cooley Heartline, and they've won like 22 in a row. I mean, it's hard to argue. They got 9 wins against tournament teams here. I mean, I get that Lummy is a sexy pick here, and they got a dominant player. Yeah, they actually have 5 seniors as well. I mean, I think Lummy's a very balanced roster with experience, but I'm going to go with Almira Cooley and Heartline to win the championship over Lummy.
Going all 3 of them, not just 2?
Yeah. Well, 3 is greater than 2, you know.
That's true.
But in all seriousness, though, I mean, you can make an argument for a Niabe, a DeSales, a Tulalip Heritage, a Welpinit as a 9. You can make a case for a lot of these teams to make moves into Friday, into Saturday. You know, DeSales only losing to Almira Cooley Heartline and Lake Roosevelt by 2, you know, and then who was it? Niabe only lost to Lake Roosevelt by 1. You know, there's some really, really close games between those 2 teams and Lake Roosevelt, who's a very respectable 2B opponent for any team. So I think this is a really wide open bracket. Honestly, it's one of those that I'd like to see in person and how it plays out. But I know I'm going to be seeing a really good one play out as well. So, all righty. Let's go ahead and flip the script here to the 2B boys. Oh, boy. This is Drew Lawson's favorite right here. Perry Black special for y'all. The 2B boys, Columbia Burbank, Big Shock, number 1. And then Freeman, the Scotties, number 2. Reardon, number 3. The defending champs, the Colfax Bulldogs, number 4. Lake Roosevelt, number 5. Toledo, 6. Adna, 7. Northwest Christian Colbert, an 8 seed. Napavine, a 9. Liberty Bell at 10. Okanagan, 11. Tri-Cities Prep at 12. Rainier at 13. LaSalle, 14. Mount Vernon Christian as a 15. And then Sarah LaConner as a 16. Well, boys, I think that when you look at the top 6 of the top 8, at least, I think 6 of the top 8 could have a reasonable chance to play for the championship when it comes Saturday. I mean, I would say Burbank's the clear favorite, probably to be one of those teams that are going to get there, but not before there's going to be some tough matchups along the way. If Burbank's completely healthy, I think that they've got to be the favorite to win the tournament. Outside of that, I think you're drawing straws when you look at Freeman, Reardon, Colfax. I think that Northwest Christian Colbert's probably as dangerous as an 8 seed as you're going to find in this tournament, between any girls bracket, any boys bracket. I think the 8 seed Northwest Christian Colbert is a very difficult out. Beyond that, I'm not too in love with any real deep team. I mean, Okanagan is a matchup problem for everybody in terms of size. If they can beat you down low and play a physical, low-scoring type of game, I think that they could be a team that can put somebody on upset alert. But I just probably would say Burbank's my number one contender. Outside of that, I mean, Matthew and I, we watched Freeman last year take home 4th place and return everybody and go down a classification. They played a really tough schedule last year at the state tournament. I mean, my money's on a Burbank-Freeman game probably.
This is Burbank's golden generation senior year. This is Tristan Vermont and Quincy Scott. They've been, since they were freshmen, we knew that they were special down here. And, they've come, they've slowly ascended to this point. And this is, this is it. I think the biggest thing that they've got this year too is they have a big guy in the post that, they have not had over the past few years. And, he will be a matchup problem for anybody when he's in there. Burbank is the clear favorite in my opinion. But yeah, like you said, I honestly, even past the top 8, Napavine, Okanagan, Tri-Cities Prep is a team that also could be a pretty matchup nightmare. They have some size up there that they can throw on to some big boys and they can make things tough for people. If they get a lead, they could really put the hammer down and go far. I think that there's clearly an A tier and a B tier, but I think that you could probably make a case for 6 or 7 teams to win this tournament. You really could.
I think it's a 2-horse race. I think it's Columbia Burbank, and I think it's Freeman. I think those two separated themselves by a lot. I really like Napavine, except their last 2 games in the district semifinal, or 2 of their last 3, I should say, in the district semifinals, they really came out and struggled against Toledo. And again, Toledo ended up winning the district title. They didn't even necessarily look good against Forks in that winner to state loser out game. It was tight at halftime. And then they really left a lot to be desired against Rainier in that 3rd place game. So Napavine was my hot pick, but I think they're coming in really struggling. If Carson Denault is on, they can play with anyone. Also, Jack Nelson could end up playing against Freeman. You want to talk about some size down low, that'd be a fun battle. Lake Roosevelt and Colfax, I think whoever wins that game also can throw their hat in the mix, because I think both those teams play such a different brand of basketball. They're tough, they're gritty, they're physical. They can really throw a wrench into anyone's game plan, especially if they draw an officiating crew who lets the teams play. That is always a factor that we have to keep our eyes on. I think Toledo's a year away. They're very young. They graduate 1 player. He's coming off the bench, so look for Toledo. They'll be a top 8 once again next year. And Adden is just too reliant on some deep shooting, some 3-point shooting. I like Northwest Christian as well, though. I think they're a team who could definitely end up playing on Saturday for a trophy for sure.
Yeah, I want to throw in, with Toledo there, Cooper Fallon, one of the toughest guard. He's not a guard, but he's a post, but one of the toughest players to guard. As long as he's out on the floor and available, the guy's a walking double-double. He can threaten triple doubles with blocks. He's, I think, approaching the all-time leading block record as a junior for Toledo. And last season, I can't get it out of my head, guys. District 4 had a phenomenal showing last year in the tournament, taking on some of the tougher teams from the east side and not just beating them, but beating them convincingly. Colfax may have ended up winning the championship, but, Adna and Napavine had great tournaments last year. Toledo as a 6 seed, they're going to be a difficult team to beat. Reardon, I mean, they don't have the experience as of late, right, at the tournament. And you could say the same thing for Toledo as well. But one of those 2 teams is going to put themselves in very good position in the next couple of seasons. And Colfax only losing 3 games and to all teams that are above them. they've played 1, 2, and 3 so far. If you want a 4 seed that you don't want to play, it's going to be Colfax for sure. Northwest Christian Colbert. I can't remember the last name, but Avi is the guard. So I figured it was Avi West, but I didn't want to totally screw it up. So, but man, you want to talk about a team that you don't want to play as an 8 seed, right? If they're getting themselves in, they would be taking on Colfax. That's a tough matchup there. I mean, those two teams play. I think they've played once already this season, and when you got they had a lot of experience. They've been in the tournament the last couple of years. Northwest Christian as an 8. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm not interested in that. And Okanagan as an 11. They do have a head-to-head win against against Napavine. So they haven't been like super strong against tournament teams throughout all the season. But like I mentioned, they've got a ton of size as well. I think 3 players above 6'5". It's going to be real interesting to see how the matchups really play out there. But I like where we're at with Burbank and Freeman kind of being the top 2 teams. So let's get into picks. I'm going to go first because I don't want to split between you two. All right, okay. I'm going to go with Freeman in this one. I think that the experience that Freeman had last year at the 1A level in the state tournament, playing against some teams like Seton Catholic, in that last game, another team that returned a bunch of players this year at the 1A level. I think that Freeman's played a very tough schedule overall. Their only losses are to Colfax and Columbia Burbank, and they beat West Valley Spokane. They beat Pullman, 2 teams that were, survivors, so to speak, from the 2A boys over in the GSL. So I'm going to go Freeman over Burbank in this one.
Go ahead, Matthew.
All right. Well, I know Matt Evans and I disagree on this one because I think we talked about it at state football, and I haven't changed. And I know Matt Evans hasn't changed because he's had no reason to. I'm taking Freeman over Columbia Burbank. We saw them. Their loss at state last year, Nick, if you remember, was to Annie Wright. That's not a bad loss at all. They have size, and it's not just one player. Again, Braxton Couch, yeah, he's a monster down low for Columbia Burbank. But Tanner Goldsmith, this is a 6'5" senior who can score at the bucket. He can post you up, and he can go out and knock down a 3 as well. And then you also have another 6-footer coming off the bench in Colton Wells. I assume he's starting this year, I should say. They're so tall, they're so athletic, and again, they've played in this situation before. They've played together at state. That's that game. If we are lucky enough to get that game, that is going to be a barn burner. But I just think the double-headed monster down low for Freeman will just be a little bit too much for Columbia Burbank.
So we all know I am a Tri-Cities homer. We all know how I feel about Burbank. We all know how I feel about these boys. I have them making the state championship game. I have them losing. I have them losing to literally the one team in the top 12 that we have not mentioned at all. My state championship pick is Reardon. I think that is a team that they're a 3 seed, and like we just proved, nobody's talking about them. Nobody is looking at them as a serious contender, and that is a team that they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. They can beat you in different parts of the gym. They are fast. They can. I think Reardon wins the whole thing. It's hard for me to say because I want Burbank. I want this for those boys, but I think that in the end of the day, I think Reardon takes it.
Okay.
Nobody picking Columbia Burbank. We're going to look real silly potentially in a couple weeks, guys.
I already know I look silly, so,
But you have the Anacortes video, so you're set for a year. You're good.
I'm not going to say book it, though. So yeah.
I still haven't gotten my state championship ring from Coach Ports. I don't know what the hell's going on there. He said he couldn't do that for me, but that's the way it goes. So, all right. You guys are in still frame on my frozen in time on my end. I can hear you guys all really well still, but hopefully it's not like that for the viewing audience, but it might be. So, all right, Spokane is done. Where should we travel to next, boys? Should we go straight to Tacoma?
Absolutely.
I say so.
Absolutely.
I say so too. I think we should. All right. Well, let's go to girls again. Let's talk about the ladies here. We'll start with 3A. I just want to get it off my chest right now. For those that care about 3A girls, wow, this is like a really tough bracket to seed and really think like how it's going to play out here. So first, we'll just go through the seeds. Number 1, Central Valley. Number 2, North Thurston. Number 3, White River. Number 4, Stanwood. Number 5, Seattle Prep. 6, Lakeside Seattle. 7, Kennewick. 8, Meadowdale. 9, Ridgeline. 10, River Ridge. 11, Mountain View. 12, Eastside Catholic. 13, Bellarmine Prep. 15, Roosevelt. 17, Bellevue. And 19, Garfield. And I'm going to let somebody else start here because I want to save what I've got here. So whoever wants to jump in on 3A girls here first for contenders and beyond.
Central Valley.
You want to know what's wild, Nick? You just mentioned Garfield's a 19 seed. They've won the last 4 3A girls state championships. That's bonkers. It is just absurd. Central Valley, of course, they're the favorite. I don't think you're going to find anyone in the state that disagrees with that. They are stacked. But, I mean, you got some teams that are tricky draws. North Thurston, that's a fun team to watch. The Cordes sisters, and then you got Soraya Ogaldez. The thing that they lack is some real size. They don't really have that paint presence. White River is a team that I didn't expect to be in this spot moving up to 3A after graduating a ton of girls from what was a really fun team to watch in Yakima last year. That matchup with Lakeside right out of the gate, that is a tremendous matchup. Lakeside's a team that you can't overlook. They could end up playing for a state championship without question. I think that after maybe the top 8, you have a little bit of a drop-off. I'm not going to lie, I haven't been able to watch Ridgeline, so if I'm disrespecting Ridgeline, Matt, you flash me some sort of sign or something. But there's a lot of great players in this tournament. Central Valley's, I think they're without question the favorite. Good luck finding anyone who will argue with that.
Nick, are you going to argue with that?
Yeah, I got some arguments. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me hear it.
It's like you're just teeing me up here, Matt. Look, man, I mean, I get it, right? Central Valley undefeated, 23-0, 6 wins versus tournament teams. Their closest game is an 11-point contest against Kennewick twice, ironically, who's the 7 seed. North Thurston, 26-1. Their only loss is to 4A Olympia, which is kind of a head scratcher. 8 wins versus 8 wins versus tournament teams. They beat the Camas 4A team. White River is a 3 and Stanwood is a 4. I mean, White River I think is good. They've played a really good schedule. 22-3 overall. 9 wins versus tournament teams between all the classifications. Guys, Stanwood is a 4. I mean, I don't want to upset every fan, all one of you maybe from Stanwood, right, that like watches this and wants to tune in next time. But that's got to be the most fraudulent 4 seed in the history of tournament seeding. I mean, they're 20-4, but 3 of their wins are against Monroe and 2 are against Shorecrest, and they're out. So between the rest of the field, they've got no wins over any other team in the field. Seattle Prep, meanwhile, as the 5 seed at 20-7, that may not look very good, right, on paper. They've played 14 games against teams in a tournament, and they're 8-6 in those games. I mean, you want to talk about a battle-tested team. How about this one, Lakeside, 22-4, 11 wins versus tournament teams. Only losses are to Seattle Prep twice, Eastside Catholic, and Roosevelt. Guys, the meat and potatoes here is right in the Metro League. And you said there wasn't much after that, Matthew. Let me tell you what's after that. Eastside Catholic at 15-11, 14 games versus tournament teams. Bellevue, 21-6, 4 wins versus tournament teams. Garfield, three-time defending state champs, 14-9, 5 versus tournament teams. What? There are so many teams in this bracket that could win the championship, right? And I'll tell you right now, spoiler alert, I don't got Central Valley in the championship game. So whoever wants to go beyond, go ahead. I see the looks. I see it.
Okay. Hold on, Nick, can I ask you an honest question? This might be calling you out.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Have you watched Bryn McGoy play basketball?
Never.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there it is.
There it is.
Yep.
I am a box score. I'm a box score reporter right here. I'm going off of the resume, not the eye test.
You're starting to sound like my computer, man.
Hey.
Oh.
Then I guess I'll be wrong, right?
Yeah. Probably.
All right.
I'm not going to argue.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Oh,
we just
where
did.
do you
Bryn
start?
McGoy.
Yeah. Where do you start?
Bryn McGoy.
She is just unbelievable. I mean, yeah. The thing is like you can think of just every positive basketball adjective that you can think of, and it's her. She's incredible. And and the thing that was interesting was, she was at Colfax for the last 3 years, and she dominated down there as she should have, and goes up to 3A here, and it hasn't even been it's just been like she should have been here the whole time. It's just, she's amazing. She's amazing. I'm happy that the transfer ended up going through. Central Valley, I just think they're head and shoulders above everybody. I do. Even with those two Metro teams. I mean, to be fair, I do have Lakeside in the finals. And I have Central Valley Lakeside, and I have Central Valley winning. But yeah, Central Valley's head and shoulders above, in my opinion.
All right.
Matt Evans. I need to start picking before Matt Evans because I have literally the same pick, and I want to change it right now. In fact, I'm gonna change it just because I can't agree with it.
To be fair, I actually 3 minutes ago I had Central Valley North Thurston, and I was like, wait a minute, and I went back and flipped and put Lakeside in there. So I didn't until we were talking about going through that. So we're good.
We at ESN made our picks on Monday, and I had Central Valley over Lakeside. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go ahead and roll with it. Bryn McGoy is a one-of-a-kind player. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, we said the same thing about Haley Van Lith. Mm-hmm. Never won a state title. So it's possible. Bryn McGoy does something Haley Van Lith couldn't do, and that's be 6'3". So she's might be the greatest women's basketball player I've ever seen. I've gotten to see a ton of good ones, both high school and when I was over at Wazoo. I've never seen anything like her. She is incredible. She's got WNBA written all over her. She's that good off the ball. She can knock down threes. She can post you up. She's a triple-double machine any given night. I like Lakeside, though. I think that they got a nice draw with White River. I was surprised White River was the 3, but really when you get to that 3 through 6, good luck picking your matchup. North Thurston, I think their biggest issue is they play so aggressive on defense that they can wind up in foul trouble very quickly. And the scoring depth really isn't there outside of Galdes and Cordis. Grace Lee can pick that up as well, but it seems like she's very hesitant to pull the trigger like she should be. She's a phenomenal player. And I think Lakeside, again, is another team that kind of did not finish strong, and that just added fuel to the fire. So I think they go on a run, but Central Valley is just another level. I got them winning it all.
Wow. I guess I should change my picks, right? Because I'm going to be really wrong, but I'd rather be really wrong than to cave to peer pressure right now. So, where I've got it going off of the rails here, I got Seattle Prep upsetting them, in the first day or second day of the tournament. I got Central Valley finishing 3rd. That's pretty nice, right? A 3rd place trophy. That's not bad. But I got Seattle Prep and Lakeside playing each other in the championship here, an all Metro League affair. And I went with Seattle Prep in this one. It's they won twice against Lakeside in the regular season, so I'm going to go with that matchup there. But just going back to the opening round here for the play-in games, I got an upset in every single game that for winner to Tacoma, loser out. I've got Bellevue over Ridgeline, Roosevelt over River Ridge, Garfield over Mountain View, and Eastside Catholic over Bellarmine. So
not an upset technically.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Mountain View's got a decent team. Problem is that they don't have anybody to really challenge them a whole lot, you know. And I mean they got a great exchange student that came over. I don't want to sound like it. I think it was Italy. Her name's Svena Bernasconi. She's a really good player. They've got a couple of twins, Sanderson twins that are really good, but outside of that, their depth, I'm not in love with. You know, I don't think that they've got a lot of firepower coming in off the bench. And when you get to these tournaments and you play these teams that, you know, play up in the Seattle area, you know, they're usually 7 deep. And, you know, Matthew, you've probably seen a more of them play live than I have this year. But, yeah, so Stanwood, right? I want to go back to them real quick. I got them 2 and done. So as a 4 seed, I just want to put it out there, right? And by the way, I haven't watched a single dribble of Stanwood girls basketball. So that's just going off the numbers and going off the metrics. That's where I'm at with it. I mean, you guys will probably know a little bit more about me, but I am literally Evan's rankings computer tonight.
If Stanwood beats Seattle Prep this weekend, this is gonna be clipped. Yeah.
Technically, Seattle Prep will still be alive. You know, they'll just have to do it a little different. That's all.
If Stanwood beats Seattle Prep, I will eat a pile of in a red solo. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, don't pull a Justin Domashevitz and tell me you're going to eat a hat live on a show, because
I will go to Taco Bell and just kidding.
I'm sending this to Dustin Swanson right now. I'm going to send him this clip. Head coach of Stanwood girls basketball.
Okay? So you guys are friends?
No, but you can find coach's emails, Nick.
Oh, yeah. Got you. Oh, cool. Yeah. No, I don't believe in that kind of thing.
I do want to point out a player, Brandy Stanford of River Ridge, transferred from Timberline. That Timberline team was really good last year. She's a very talented player. So if she's on her A game and kind of frees things up for her teammates, River Ridge is a team who can pull off an upset or two without question. But yeah, looking at Garfield as a 19 seed, that is, I also have them beating Mountain View and getting to the Tacoma Dome. When I said there's nothing much after, Nick, I meant in terms of state title contender. I don't see those teams going on. And I also want to pick out, you said you had all upsets. Eastside Catholic, not an upset over Bellarmine Prep. Better seats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It's better that you're right about something very minor, you know, during the course of this show.
We'll look at the results when it's all said and done. I think we tied for football. I don't think there's too much trash talking that can be going on.
I did pretty good overall. You know, I think I got 2nd place overall in all the brackets or something like that, or 3rd.
I think it was 3rd. Yeah.
You're like, it was 3rd. Shut up.
You got the bronze medal, man.
You suck.
By the way, one other name I want to throw out there: Kennewick, Dylan Dress. If Kennewick does good things, Dylan Dress is going to be the one who takes them there. She's phenomenal.
That game, and I'm lucky enough to call it between Kennewick and North Thurston, will tell us a lot about how this tournament goes out. If Kennewick goes out and beats North Thurston, White River, they might be in some trouble. So I think that is a game to keep your eye on to kind of see how the rest of the tournament can play out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's stick with it real quick. Matt Evans, tell me a little bit about Kennewick, because going off of your computer that I have right here on paper, you know, they've only got 1 win against a team playing in the tournament, and that was Ridgeline, and they did lose twice to Central Valley by 11. But all their other tries against teams like Chiawana, for instance, you know, there really wasn't a whole lot of a tournament competition that they faced this year. Are they as good as their record indicates? Are they as good as the 7 seed?
I think that they are. They deserve the 7 seed. I think that they are, you know, obviously MCC, we just, you know, they don't get the opportunity to play as many non-league games as they should. I don't really like how they're structuring the league schedule this year. We're down to 4 non-league games, not including a foundation game. And next year we're getting a new high school down here. So I think they're going to be even cut down to 2 non-league games. So it's, you know, I mean, they really haven't had an opportunity to go out and, and showcase themselves. But they have played Chiawana tough, and we know that Chiawana's a 4A state title contender. They can play with anybody. I think that Kennewick is for real, and I think that they, like Matthew said, if there's a chance they could come out, throw the tournament on their head with beating North Thurston up there at UPS.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Because I haven't seen a dribble of Kennewick basketball either this year. So
I've seen,
which makes a lot of sense for me to host a basketball show, statewide. I should probably watch a little bit more outside of my demographic here. But let's turn the page. We'll stay with girls. We'll just move up a class. We'll do 4A girls who are here at Tacoma. We still got 3A boys and 4A boys to get to, and then we'll give you all what you're waiting for, which if you missed it because you're playing a men's league basketball game, you can rewatch it. You just can't type in live and tell us when we're wrong. So 4A girls. I like this bracket too, guys. Davis, number 1, Lake Washington, number 2, and then the Chiawana Riverhawks, we were just talking about, a number 3 seed in 4A. Woodinville at 4. Union at 5. 6 at Auburn. Auburn's at 6. Camas 7. Sumner 8. Meade 9. Issaquah 10. Redmond 11. Emerald Ridge 12. Glacier Peak 13. Kennedy Catholic 14. Lake Stevens 15, and Eastmont at 16. Guys, what are your impressions of the bracket, and who do you like?
I think Davis is the number 1 seed for a reason. I think they got to be the favorite. I think both 4A tournaments are pretty stacked, pretty open for the most part. I got to watch Auburn and Woodinville play each other at the ShoWare Center, and that was a really tight ball game all the way through. I don't think you can ever write off Woodinville. And I think Auburn, I know they're a 6 seed, but I still think they're getting slept on a little bit. I think they deserve more respect. Lake Washington has raised some eyebrows, jumping up and being the 2 seed immediately. Meade is a tricky team at the 9 seed. I think you might have been able to flip them in Sumner. I think the SPSL was a little overrated this year, so I think you could have bumped Meade up into one of those protected games. But I think there's a handful of teams. Union is a very strong team that can go on a run and win the state title. This league is wide, or the classification is really open to me, but I think it all starts with Davis at the top, and they're the 1 seed for that reason.
Yeah, I completely agree, Davis. I mean, Davis has on the road true road wins over Camas and Union this year. I mean, they've got, and they went down and played in a very, very prestigious tournament in Oregon. Yeah, they took 2 losses down there, but you got to go challenge yourself, and they are, like you said, they're the number 1 seed for a reason. Chiawana's got some big size. Malia Rude's a senior this year. I agree. Meade, I like them as as a 9 seed again. I think that I have them going all the way to Saturday. You can make a case for, I think seriously, you could probably make a case for 5 or 6 of these teams, but yeah, I think it all kind of comes and goes with Davis.
Yeah, you already mentioned it there, Matt, just a couple seconds ago there. Only losses for the Pirates are out of state, to 2 pretty good teams. Willamette from Oregon, and can't remember the other one off the top of my head. I want to say Clackamas maybe, but
it was Willamette.
I know they beat Willamette. They lost. I know they lost to Willamette. They beat Westland.
Clackamas. Yeah, Clackamas. Yeah.
Those all 3 of those programs are very prestigious in the state of Oregon. So there's nothing to sneeze at. They're losing those games. Outside of that, I have watched some basketball in the 4A classification, Matthew, just so you know. I do know who Brooklyn Haywood is. And so, we want to talk about walking buckets. You want to talk about WNBA potential, a little bit undersized compared to, maybe some of the bigger players that are going to play in college and beyond. But this girl hits the lab every single day, man. She's she's like the Beckett Curry of Union. You know, she's
Mhm.
constantly shooting the basketball from long range, off the dribble. She's a 3-level scorer. You know, Union at the 5 seed. You know, I like saying they're as dangerous as a blank seed, you know, in every tournament. Man, I mean, that's a 5 seed there that I don't want to play at all. In fact, the game between Union and Woodinville, I mean, that is a matchup to start the tournament in the regional round there. And then you've got Camas as a 7, 17-6, defending champs. Or is it Union defending champs? I can't remember off the top of my head, right? Is it like one of the two? They won it. Yeah, Camas. Yeah, 2 seniors this year, but 5 wins over tournament teams. You know, they did get beat by 20 to Lake Washington, which is who they're matching up with. It's always tough to play Camas a second time around. In fact, Union and Camas played 4 times this year, and they each won 2. You know, so you may get the better of the paper makers one week, but they may come back and beat you the next. You know, I'm not saying that Lake Washington should be on upset alert, because I think that they've got a really good resume, 7 wins over tournament teams this year. That, you know, they're probably the only team in the state of Washington with the mascot, the Kangaroos. So I'm a big fan of that. Chihuahua
too.
Yeah, the Kangs. Yep. 22-1 is Chihuahua. 5 wins over tournament teams. Their only lost, guys, is to Prosser by 9. If that doesn't tell you how good the 2A girls bracket is, I don't know what does, because that's incredible to me that Prosser's a 6 seed in 2A. But anyway, neither here nor there. Matthew, I want to go back real quick. You mentioned the Auburn Trojans. You know, 19-6. They came on late. They won some tight games late. You know, if they're not able to do it this year, right? Definitely a team to watch next year. I would, if I had my crystal ball for next year's state championship game, it's going to be between Auburn and Camas. So, you know, Auburn has 0 seniors. Camas only has 2. Auburn has only 3 wins versus tournament teams, but that's probably the only reason on their resume why I could see them getting the 6th spot. And they didn't have to play Union in the championship game, who's ranked a little bit above them. Not saying that they got a good draw, but yeah, I mean, Union has a 1-point loss to Davis. They're a contender to me, guys. I think as a 5 seed. I also like Woodinville a lot here. 9 wins versus tournament teams. They won 2 of 3 versus Lake Washington, the 2 seed. You know, this bracket actually excites me a lot.
Yeah, 4 of Auburn's 6 losses, by the way, were by a single possession. So that tells you they only have 3 juniors. They're a really fun team. That game with Chihuahua and that Union Woodinville game are both fantastic. I assume we're moving into our championship picks now.
Yeah.
I got Chihuahua winning the state title, and I've got them beating Woodinville. Woodinville is a team who knows how to win in the playoffs. We see it every year. I think they get by Union. I think Chihuahua gets by Auburn. And I think we end up seeing Chihuahua Woodinville in the championship. I really like Chihuahua. That one loss early, first game of the season, like you mentioned, Nick, to Prosser, that's nothing to really hang your head about. And Chihuahua seems to have gotten better and better as the year has gone on. I think they're a team that's going to kind of sneak in under the radar a little bit. I can tell you on the west side, no one's really paying that close of attention to them because Davis is grabbing the spotlight. I think Chihuahua is going to sneak in there, and they're going to end up cutting down the nets, taking down Woodinville.
It's funny you say that, man. I also have Chihuahua playing Woodinville on Thursday with Chihuahua winning that game. So my state championship game, I have Lake Washington making it, have them losing to the Union Titans. I feel like Brooklyn Haywood, man, that girl, unless she gets hurt, I think they're going to win the state championship. She's just, she finds a way to make buckets, and that's what you need. Is you need somebody who's going to get you buckets, and she's going to be one who's going to get hot, and she's going to take them to the title.
Well, boys, again, I'm going to be the contrarian here. We all got different picks, though, so that's good. I like that. We're all on a different page. I'm going to ride the hot hand. I'm going to go with the team that hasn't lost to a team in the state of Washington that has the best resume, that is the number 1 seed. I'm going with Davis in this one. not an easy path to get there. I got them beating Camas and I got them beating Union in the semis. And then I got Woodinville as well in the state championship. I got Woodinville matching up with Lake Washington in the semis. And, Woodinville's got the better of Lake Washington 2 out of 3 times. So let's make it 3 out of 4. I think Woodinville is going to be a tough team for anybody. And I think they have the right pedigree for the matchup, at least. If they play Lake Washington, I think that they've got the matchup in their favor. So I'm going to go with Davis, though, to win it. I do think that, I was very close to clicking Union in that game, guys. I really was. When you look at that, you're at home and you only lost by 1. Good teams find a way to make adjustments the next time around. But Davis has got the same film, and they're probably a much better team than that they were earlier on in the season. I like where they're at right now, and I'm going to go with AC Davis.
They did just drop 100 in their district championship game as well. So,
yeah, no, they're playing pretty good here. So,
also shout out Emerald Ridge.
Yeah,
best letter combination in the state.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't have much going on. I don't think in terms of upsets. I mean,
I have a question for you guys. Who's your guys' sleeper? Do you have any lower seeds? Lower seeds being like past Camas that you think get to Saturday or even to late Friday? I've got Meade getting to Saturday. I've got them beating Camas in the 4-6 game. But do you guys see anything
to Saturday?
Like that?
I mean, getting to Saturday, I've got Camas and Chiawana in the 4-6, Lake Washington Union in the 3-5, and Davis and Woodinville. But I will say that, looking at the bracket here, I was really thinking a little bit about Issaquah in this one here, guys. I thought Issaquah had a decent resume at 17-10. I was also looking at Redmond. Redmond has 6 wins versus tournament teams. They're 20-4. But 3 out of their 4 losses are to higher seeds. They did lose a game to a non-tournament team. I mean, they may have the ability to win a game. Nothing after the 11 spot is what I kind of quit looking too deep into it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. Meade is a team who can definitely be playing on Saturday for a trophy. I think whoever gets out of that Glacier Peak Emerald Ridge team could also be a sneaky trophy contender as well. I think that's going to be a really, really good ball game. But after Meade, I think it's going to be really tough for any of those teams to get to Saturday.
Well, and the tough thing about that Emerald Ridge Glacier Peak one, the winner of them, they got to take on the loser of Woodinville Union. So if they do, that's going to be a thing where if they do get that win and they do get into the field, that's a good chance that they could make a run to Saturday with a momentum.
All right, boys. I think that we are done with the 4A girls now. So let's go ahead and switch it. It's all about the boys now. 3A boys. Number 1 seed, Rainier Beach. Number 2, Mount Spokane. Number 3, Garfield. 4, Bellevue. 5, Edmonds Woodway. 6, Lincoln Tacoma. 7, Seattle Prep. 8, Bellarmine Prep. 9, Eastside Catholic. 10, Monroe. 11, Auburn Mountain View. 12, Shorecrest. 13, Liberty of Renton. 14, Federal Way. 14 Federal Way. 15, Gig Harbor. 17, Prairie. That's your fields. Thoughts on the bracket first and then contenders?
This is another loaded bracket. I agree. I scratch my head at how Federal Way and Auburn Mountain View are playing each other in a loser out game when those two teams kind of separated themselves in the league and really into districts. But you want to talk about a sneaky team. I want to get these guys their shout out before we go into the favorites. Gig Harbor's red hot. That team's on fire. Michael Massini is a problem for anyone to guard. I think they beat Monroe, and I think they're going to end up continuing their journey into the quarterfinals on Thursday.
Wow.
They're just red hot right now. They're a team. They're going to probably end up getting Seattle Prep because I think Mount Spokane is a very, very good team. I think they beat Seattle Prep. This is a team that's just playing with so much confidence right now, and if Michael Massini's on the court, good luck stopping him. But when it comes to favorites, I again think this is a loaded classification. Rainier Beach and Mount Spokane, I think, are the two that separate themselves for me. You can throw in Garfield too. But again, looking at the top 6, I'd say Bellarmine Prep at 8 is a head scratcher for me. I don't think that they necessarily should have been in one of those protected games, but I think then you're just sliding Eastside Catholic in, and maybe the committee didn't want to slide in too many of those teams. Lincoln's another team, though, I think are kind of getting overlooked because you just look at the Metro League and then you throw in a couple of teams. And Edmonds Woodway is another team. This classification's stacked. It really is when you look up and down. But I think those top 6 are really where you're going to find your state champion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not as sold on Mount Spokane. I was not going to lie. At 7 losses, I was kind of. I mean, I'm not just. I mean, they have some good. They have a couple losses to Gonzaga Prep in there, who's number 1 in 4A. But I mean, I honestly think Mount Spokane got a boost because of where some of the other D2 teams fell. Like you said, with Bellarmine Prep, I honestly think that the only reason why they got the 8 is because you couldn't put Eastside Catholic as the 8 against Rainier Beach, and you knew Rainier Beach was going to be the 1. That was undeniable. They were going to be the 1. So, but I honestly, I don't have I have Mount Spokane losing. Actually, I do have them make it into Friday, I guess. But I'm not sold on those guys. And honestly, my 6 is pretty much District 2 and Lincoln. That's my Saturday 6 right there. It's just I feel like District 2 is a step above. There's a lot of talented teams in there, but District 2 is just a step above in 3A boys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're right where we need to be with Rainier Beach, obviously being the prohibited favorite at number 1. I would have argued to probably see maybe a Garfield or a Bellevue in that 2 spot over Mount Spokane. I think that if you look at what Bellevue did overall throughout the season, one of the few teams to beat Annie Wright, did it by double figures. I know they're a 1A school, but we've all seen Annie Wright, and they're a phenomenal team. They're probably pound for pound maybe the best boys team in the state of Washington. Feel free to stop me if you disagree, but ultimately, I'm with you, Mr. Evans here. Mount Spokane, their losses are to really good teams. Losing to Meade, Gonzaga Prep, Richland. You'd like to see maybe 1 or 2 of those games flip to a W instead of a loss in order to justify being a 2 seed. I mean, they're definitely a tournament team, but that's a lot of respect given to them. Lincoln as the 6 is okay. I mean, I think that Auburn Mountain View had a legitimate, gripe to be higher. And then, Federal Way is a 14. Ugh, come on. I don't know about that. I do feel like it's a pretty up for grabs bracket. I like Bellevue a lot here, though, guys. I think that the way that Bellevue's been playing, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you have to play defense. Coming off of their last game against Rainier Beach, they held Rainier Beach to 71. I know, right? Held to 71, but Rainier Beach scored 119 earlier this year, so that's a big number. Rainier Beach scores the basketball a lot. They got a couple of kids that transferred. We saw them last year, the Ili Muniz brothers from Renton, now playing for Rainier Beach. They're just a problem for anybody. They've got a roster full of kids that can run the court, get out in transition, off the glass, dunk it. There's too many problems with Rainier Beach. I think it's just a question of who they're going to play.
Yeah.
Big shock, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, so I'll start out championship picks since I've already kind of given it away. I've got Rainier Beach beating Garfield. I've got Bellevue beating Eastside Catholic in the 3-5 matchup, and then I have Seattle Prep over Lincoln at Tacoma in the 4-6. D2 is just D2, and I don't see anybody else stepping up to that level.
I agree, but in a different way. I've got Bellevue over Garfield in the championship. I think Nick kind of nailed it. Bellevue is a very, very strong team. That matchup with Edmonds Woodway does worry me a little bit, but if they get that win, they can clearly play with anybody. Rainier Beach, definitely. I'm trying to get bold. Obviously, you can always go with the layup that is Rainier Beach, but I think Garfield got a favorable matchup in Lincoln. Not there is favorable matchups, that are layups in the first round of regionals for those top 8, but I think that's a matchup that really does lean Garfield's way. And Bellevue has gone through that iron sharpens iron. That win over Annie Wright. Really, I know it's a 1A team, Nick. I'm right there with you, but that's a team who beat Rainier Beach. So that just tells you Bellevue can hang with anyone. I think that they're kind of peaking at the right time as well, and I've got them taking down Garfield.
Nice.
Real quick, we got a question coming in. It says, did you guys go over 4A girls? We did. We just got done with it in our last little segment there, probably about 5-6 minutes ago. You're able to rewind, I think, the live stream or go back and watch it on where we picked. But we're in the middle of 3A boys right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deviate off the path here. Rainier Beach, to me, is about as a lock as you could possibly get. Outside of, who they have to maybe play. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
I think the biggest lock in the state is still to come.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm talking in the class, and
okay.
I know where you're. I know. You're. Does the name of the team start with my by the chance? Does it say? Is it my? The team that you have is the lock, Matt.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now you get it.
Right? I put the pieces together. Yes.
Okay. Good.
I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in, but we'll save.
All right. Okay, so I got Rainier Beach, in the championship. I got them beating Bellevue in the semis. So even though I like Bellevue a lot, I don't see them getting a path to the championship game to play Rainier Beach there unless they went through the dark side and lost to Edmonds Woodway. But I don't see that happening either. So I'm going to go with Garfield in the other half of the championship game. I think that they're probably going to take on Mount Spokane in there. I'm going to give Mount Spokane the benefit of the doubt, right? That they played a lot of tough teams and they lost to some tough teams. I think that there's going to be a chip on Mount Spokane's shoulders heading into the tournament. I think that they've heard a lot of noise about where they don't belong, and I think that they're going to play it to prove that they at least belong to get to the semifinals. I mean, losing to Garfield, that's nothing to sneeze about. But I'm going to go Rainier Beach over Garfield in the championship. All right. Meg wants to know what the dog's name is. It's Apollo. Yep.
Yeah, Apollo. He's my 5-year-old pit bull terrier, my 75-pound lap dog.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Federal Way at Gig Harbor, Matthew. I keep saying, Matthew. I think those two teams are as dangerous as double-digit seeds. I do want to throw Prairie into the mix. The only reason I want to throw Prairie into the mix here is because they've got a really, really good player in Carson Morningstar. He's a 6'7" forward. That they can do. Prairie can. They came back late against Central Valley. Obviously, I'm not like super in love with them or anything like that, but I think that they take on Eastside Catholic. That's tough. They're probably going to be one and done, but it's possible, that some good players can possibly step up and put together a good performance there. But Prairie's had a good season down here in the District 4 GSHL 3A.
I kind of already went off on my tangent on the team that I am in love with, and that's Gig Harbor. But Auburn Mountain View is a team who can definitely go and make some serious noise. Whoever survives that game between them and Federal Way will have earned their way to the Tacoma Dome in a brutal way. But yeah, Gig Harbor's they're my Cinderella.
All righty, I like it. Let's move on up. Now, if Meg's still here, this is where we start our conversation with 4A boys, Meg. So we're going to get to the seeds, and we're going to talk a little bit about it all right now. Number 1, Gonzaga Prep. Number 2, Auburn. Number 3, Glacier Peak. 4, Richland Bombers, the team that Matt Evans loves. Camas, number 5, West Valley Yakima, 6, Mount Si, 7, Puyallup, 8, Davis, 9, Olympia, 10, Kentwood, 11, Lake Washington, 12, Emerald Ridge, 13, Arlington, 14, North Creek, 15, Woodinville, the 16. Gonzaga Prep, guys, it starts with them and probably isn't a whole lot else to continue. I like Richland as well in terms of contenders. It's a shame that those two teams had to play, in a set, was a district championship, and then the loser had to win to stay in, and Richland ended up winning. But tough for Richland to have to go and play that game. 2 hours, is it 2-hour drive from there, you think, Matt, to get
with the weather and the bus, it was probably about 2.5.
Okay. Outside of that, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not a wide open bracket, but it seems to me that the teams on the east side have really done a lot of the heavy lifting so far this year. And my top 2 teams are probably Gonzaga Prep and Richland, although Auburn has proven that they're more than a 4A contender. They're right in the thick of things as well. Glacier Peak also very good this year.
Yeah, it's an absolute shame that Richland and Gonzaga Prep, if they both win this weekend, are going to play in the semifinals. That game should be a state championship rematch. It just is an absolute shame that that's probably going to happen there. But yeah, I think that you hit the nail right on the head there. The east side teams are the favorites in my opinion. Gonzaga Prep, Richland. I would put Auburn up there as somebody that I'm keeping in tabs on. And honestly, I mean, Camas is, it's a team you can't really sleep on, and Mount Si's got length, and who knows? I think they've heard rumors that one of their star players is injured, but we'll see if that's the case. If he's healthy, then that's another team that could be dangerous. But yeah, G Prep, Richland, Camas is and Auburn, kind of my 4 I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, I've got bad news. From what I've heard from Mount Si, it does not sound like Latford is going to be playing at all in the state tournament. So I think 7 seed is based on what they did in the regular season. Yeah. I understand that, but I mean, if you're re-ranking them now, I think you can drop them down quite a bit. But I agree. I think Gonzaga Prep and Richland are the 2 big favorites. Again, Auburn, Glacier Peak. I think people need to keep your eye on them as well. West Valley is another team who can, I think, maybe spring an upset somewhere in this tournament. They're a team who, again, have scores at every level. Puyallup, I think, is on their way. I don't think they're quite there yet. But yeah, I think it all kind of starts and ends with Gonzaga Prep and Richland, although I think the gap between them and the next tier isn't quite as big, but those 2 are definitely coming in as the favorites.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Matt. I know I already talked about who I like, in terms of contenders, but I just didn't want to throw it out there that it is a damn shame that we have to talk about Richland and Gonzaga Prep playing again in a semifinal. I think that the committee could have done themselves a service by trying to make sure that they were on opposite sides of the bracket to where, you could get that rematch on a neutral court in the Tacoma Dome for the gold ball. I think that would have done the season journey justice for what those 2 teams have accomplished so far. You mentioned Glacier Peak a little bit ago, Matthew. Only 2 losses on the season, one of those out of state and the other one in state to Kentwood by 1, so nothing too crazy. That
game they had a big lead too. Kentwood came back in the 4th quarter. That should have been a Glacier Peak win. That's one I'm sure they'd like to have back.
Yeah. But, overall, I mean, Camas has played a few tough teams this year. Awful matchup for Camas in the first round to have to go play 4 seed Richland. I want to say that Camas is a team that can make some noise. I do think that they could win against the 12-13 in the first week and play themselves into the next couple of days. Anything can happen, but Richland, I mean, they have that game. Is it? I think is at Richland High School.
Yes.
No, it's not. Okay.
Yeah,
It's at home. I mean, guys, this is a team that's got a 27-point win over Mount Spokane. A near 30-point win over Davis. They've beaten some teams all season long, and they've taken on Chihuahua in a real tough environment on the road and won that game. And I just like Richland a lot right now, and I think on a neutral court, I think Richland gets Gonzaga Prep. That's where I'm at. I'm going with the Bombers in the championship game. And I think that it's going to be Auburn in the other side of it. I'm going to go with Auburn in the championship game to play Richland. Gonzaga Prep, the third place team.
Interesting. Yeah,
I've got the same championship game.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I thought we were saying the East Side guy, the specialist.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got Richland, Auburn in the championship as well. Like, I just wanted to feed off that. Gonzaga Prep and Richland, that semifinal is the state championship game. I don't think you're going to find too many people that are going to disagree. Obviously, some of these teams will disagree, but I think those two teams, again, to be able to play on a neutral court is the big thing. Not just a neutral court. Both the teams are going to be traveling. They'll both get their legs under them, have that one game. Auburn, I think Auburn could have beaten them if it was last year. They've lost some players that were a big part of that team last year. I think they've got a real favorable matchup with Mount Si, and that's kind of just going to boost them into being that team who does get to that championship. But I just think Richland, too much size across the board and too much hunger really for the Bombers.
The other X factor for the Bombers is the bomb squad. They travel so well, and you're gonna look at that. Teams that come up to play against Richland in the state tournament are gonna look at their student section and go, "Those guys aren't from 10 miles from the dome." They travel so well, and they will be well organized, and they're just it's gonna be great. My state championship pains me to say it. I'm picking the Bombers to win the state championship. I have them beating Davis, though. I have Davis making a run, taking out Woodinville, Puyallup, Auburn, Camas, and then succumbing to the Bombers there. I think that, as you guys have said, Richland is just all around. They're too good, and that semifinal game with Gonzaga Prep, whoever wins that game is going to win the state championship. I also have Gonzaga Prep finishing third. Though I do have Kentwood making it to Saturday. I really like that team. I think, 11 seed, I was kind of shocked to see that one, but I think that's a very dangerous team. The biggest thing for them is going to be, if they win, their Wednesday is going to be the loser of Glacier Peak West Valley, and that's going to be a really tough squad. But if they can get past that one, I could see them making it to Saturday.
I mean, that's a team with 105 points in a game so far this year. So they could score the basketball, and I like sleepers. Sleepers are good. Do you got any sleeper, Matthew, that is worth mentioning? You think in 4A?
I really like Kentwood. Matt kind of snagged them from me. Lake Washington's another team who can definitely go on a run. Again, some of these teams have really tough matchups. Yeah, sorry, Matt, they play Emerald Ridge, but they'll have tough draws if they make it past. But Kentwood's my big sleeper. I just want to throw Lake Washington as the bonus. They can score. They already beat Glacier Peak. They've hung around. They took on West Valley in the, if I remember right, in the Curtis Winter Classic in that tournament. And I believe they won because they made it to the championship where they took on Mount Spokane and lost. But they're a team who can score in bunches, Nick. They've got 3 guys who can really go out there and get you a bucket. And they're playing with some good belief. They kind of are hot. They had that loss to Olympia in district before getting a couple of big wins, Kennedy Catholic in that rubber match, and then they beat Sumner in that winter state game. So they come in with momentum, and they can go out and hang 80 plus on you in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, I know Olympia's fresh off of a beating from Camas, but I mean, you got a 21 win team there in Olympia, and they've had some experience over the last few seasons. Granted, those guys are gone, but as a 10 seed, anytime you got a 10 seed and a 21 win resume there, I mean, they're a team that should not be taken lightly by anybody. So that's about probably my only deeper team that might make a run at something. All right, going once, going twice for 3A, 4A boys and girls.
Sold.
All right, what we've all been waiting for, and the viewership's picking up like I knew it would. Hopefully the men's league game is at halftime and we can flip over. All right, so we're going to do this a little differently now. Now we're just going to go 1A girls,
Yes,
and then 1A boys, and we're going to save the 2As for the very end because that's going to be my favorite tournament. All right, the 1A girls. Number 1, Linden Christian. Number 2, Bellevue Christian. Number 3, Zilla. Number 4, Kings. 5, Annie Wright. They play girls basketball too at Annie Wright, Matthew. Number 6, Seton Catholic. They play girls basketball at Seton Catholic as well. 7, Kashmir. 8, Natchez Valley. Number 9, Nooksack Valley. Number 10, Montesano. 11, Wapato. 12, Cedar Park Christian. 13, Lakeside. 14, Kingsway Christian. 15, The Bush. And then 16, Hoquiam. It says the Bush.
Got to be a better way to say that.
I'm saying I'm reading off of the WIAA title.
Throw the school at the end. Let's the Bush School. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm just reading it off the paper.
But you got to read all the words, Nick.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God.
We broke him out, Evans.
We broke him. All right.
And how dare you, by the way, act like I didn't know Annie Wright played girls basketball, because I watched Juliana Walker bury a 3/4 court shot to win a trophy.
Okay. I also have I was at the game against Kings. Yep. I was sitting courtside for that one. If you go back to the NFHS feed of it, you can see me at the bottom of the screen go. So
you can see me smack Luke Kilgore too, because he wasn't even looking. He was looking down at his notes.
I see. The funny thing about that one too is I was typing up, and this game's getting ready to go to overtime, and I did not put my phone up there. And I went up to the media room afterwards, and I was just talking to Todd Millis about how amazing this shot was. And he goes, "Oh, did you get it on video?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I was typing this." He goes, "You never put your phone down!" Like smacks me on the back of the head. Oh, it was great. Good time. Shout out, Todd.
Many hats.
Anyways, let's go ahead. Yes, Annie Wright was playing girls basketball before they were playing boys basketball.
They were an all-girls school, by the way, Nick.
Yeah.
Just in case you weren't familiar.
Yeah. Did you guys know that in D4 that Annie Wright was an all-girls school, and now they have the best boys team in the state?
No, I'm just saying that the boys are the only ones that get talked about.
Okay. Yeah.
They might be the best basketball team in the state. So.
Yeah, for good reason. Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
Let's go.
Shout out Juliana Walker.
Yeah, let's go through it. Now that the awkwardness is cleared and we're back on track again.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so Linden Christian, guys, is the number 1 seed here, and then Bellevue Christian at 2. We already went through the whole list here, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep it pretty simple here. I think that it's pretty obvious that those two teams should probably be your favorites to getting to the championship game. I think the seeding committee did a really good job overall on the bracket. Not too many gripes here. Linden Christian, their only losses are to Linden, White River, and Issaquah. Those are tournament teams, all bigger than them. And they've got 4 wins over tournament teams, but that's just because they have to play a gauntlet of a league schedule or they don't get the opportunity to play too many non-league games. But Linden Christian is on the bounce-back tour. They were in the championship game 2 seasons ago, And I think that they're in prime position to be back in it again this year. Bellevue Christian is a little bit different story here, 21-2. But man, they've played a really tough schedule all year long. They actually beat White River. They beat Kings. They beat Annie Wright 3 times, who's the 5 seed. They got 8 wins overall against teams in tournaments. At 21-2, their only losses are to Linden and Burlington Edison, and Burlington Edison couldn't qualify because of how many bids were allotted. So, those are both bigger schools as well. I think that those two are on a crash course, and I don't really think that there's really much else that I can argue. Excuse me.
I have some concerns about Bellevue Christian. Linden Christian, I think, is clearly the favorite. Nooksack Valley, again, kind of in the Napavine area where they're getting a little bit disrespected. But with Nooksack Valley, of course, Devin Coppinger graduating was going to take a big blow. So for them to get the 9 seed is hats off. But I think Linden Christian is the obvious favorite. I think both 1A tournaments have the obvious favorite. And I think the Lynx are too much depth and maybe the best head coach in the 1A classification, one of the best head coaches regardless of classification in the state.
Yeah, I agree. Linden Christian is the obvious favorite. I think, in all honesty, it comes down to who do you think is the runner-up and who do you think the other semifinalists are. I think that really is, I think even if Linden Christian doesn't play a perfect game, I think that they can still beat anybody by at least 10 points.
Yeah, the only team that I think is more of a favorite to play for the championship game. I know you guys both like Central Valley for the girls, but I think Linden Christian and Nia Bay are the 2 teams that I would say are probably locks to play in the championship game. And, I just like where Bellevue Christian is at in terms of their resume and who they've played. And, it's going to be about matchups, I think, for them and tournament experience overall. You mentioned, Matthew, Nooksack Valley. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but they're a team that definitely needs to be taken very, very seriously. With the coaching that they have coming off of a championship, there's still some pieces to the puzzle there, and they play tough teams all throughout the year as well. Their record 16-8. They've only got 1 senior on the roster too. They're going to be back next year, and they're going to be extremely tough. They might be there this year. Who knows?
They might be there. Yeah, Dark Shane could always pop out, and I hope everyone stuck around for the interview after Nooksack Valley's championship last year with both their head coach and Devin Coppinger, where we kind of dug deep on what sparked Nooksack Valley's comeback against Deer Park last year. If you didn't, go back and check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the watch. That was a great game, by the way.
Man, I almost fell out of my chair so many times. Nick was sitting down there. I was going bananas.
As you should. All right, which one of you fine basketball aficionados wants to pick the championship game first?
Go for it. I have a shocker. Go for it.
Okay. Evans pointed at me. I also have a shocker because I have Linden Christian losing in the state championship game. I've got them losing to whoever wins game number 3. I know I have to actually pick the game, but Seton Catholic and Zilla.
Interesting.
I'm going with the Leopards. I'll take Zilla to knock off Linden Christian. Again, I think the Lynx are locks to be there, Nick. I think Seton Catholic is a team that's hot right now. They don't have the strongest wins by any means, but they are coming off back-to-back wins over teams in this tournament in Hoquiam and Montesano. I know District 4, always weaker 1A. I can see the look on Matt Evans' face, but they've got momentum on their side. They have been battle-tested, but I think that long trip is just too much, and I think Zilla will take them down. I think Zilla will kind of catapult themselves. I like Kings a lot too. I think Kings might be getting slept on a little bit. They'll just have that Linden Christian draw, and Linden Christian has a ton of depth. But give me Zilla upset.
Wow. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not here for the D4 slander, by the way. So
D4 1A slander. It's different.
Yeah, the D4 slander's got to stop. We can't hear it. I'm telling you right now. All right. Do you want to jump in, Matt, or should I go?
Wow. The SEAC love, man. I thought I was going off the rails with my SEAC love. So I have SEAC representation in every single Saturday game. Okay. I have Wapato playing Kings in the 4-6. I have Zilla playing Annie Wright in the 3-5. And by process of elimination, I have Linden Christian beating Natchez Valley for the state championship. Nobody's talking about Natchez Valley, but they have a girl on their team named Ellie Bost, who, if that girl catches fire, that girl can put up 20 points a night by in her sleep. If she catches fire, I think that team is a team that could make a run. So I have Linden Christian beating Natchez Valley for the state championship.
Nice.
Scalding.
Well, I love your guys' picks because mine are super boring. Yeah, I mean, I went with the battle of the Christian schools, the number one, number two. Linden Christian against Bellevue Christian, and I got Linden Christian winning it. Listen, I'm playing the tournament to be right and to win, right? And that's what this piece of paper says, and that's what my eyes say, is that Linden Christian is going to be the best team. And, Bellevue Christian may not have a lot of experience here, but, I think that they've got a reasonable path to get there. Playing Kashmir in the first game. And then I'm searching. Nooksack Valley. I do have Bellevue Christian winning that game, but I have Nooksack Valley still finishing 4th in the tournament. And then I got Zilla and Kings in the 3rd, 5th game, and Zilla winning that one. But I do have Nooksack getting 4th after losing that game. I actually have them beating Natchez Valley too. So, boo this, man. Oh my goodness, man. All right, let's talk sleepers, right? So it sounds like that Mr. Evans has Wapato as a sleeper, which
and
isn't
Natchez,
a bad pick.
Yep.
Natchez, I don't think is a bad pick at all. By the way, the Rangers, I like it. 7 wins versus tournament teams. They split with Zilla. They lost 2 of 3 versus Kashmir, but those are good tournament teams. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that you're wrong on that regard at all. What any other teams that you got for sleepers besides the ones that you just said are going to be playing on Saturday?
No, I don't.
Okay. I think there's not going to be a double-digit seed playing on Saturday.
Okay,
I can see that.
Well, I think that you could be right about that. I want to throw out one team real quick here that I've got pulling an upset in the first round. In fact, I've got them pulling 2. If you want to call it, well, it wouldn't be an upset. Let me correct myself real quick before Matthew King does. Guys, I've got number 12 Cedar Park Christian here as 16-7, 6 wins versus tournament teams. They beat Woodinville earlier on in the season, who's the 4 seed from the 4A bracket. They got a game against Lakeside 9 Mile Falls. I think they got that one. Yeah. And then I've got them beating Annie Wright on Thursday. And they're going to end up playing Zilla in the Friday game in my bracket. I do have Zilla winning that one. And then I've got them playing Nooksack Valley, and I got Nooksack Valley winning that. So I think that they don't quite get a trophy. I think they flame out. But I think that they've got a reasonable chance, knowing that they can beat a team as good as Woodinville is this year, a team that we all like in Woodinville, by the way. I think we all had them in the championship game in some regard in the 4A bracket.
Not Matt Evans. No, they've got a ton of athletes. They're the only team in this tournament who can get a state title in both the fall and the winter because they won girls soccer state championship, Bellevue Christian. So could we see a rematch on the hardwood?
Ooh.
I don't know. There's your soccer drop, little knowledge drop in there.
Girls soccer too, guys. Girls soccer.
Yeah, Nick, do you know who won the 1A girls volleyball state championship?
One
of the best dynasties going.
It's a Park Christian, right?
No,
I don't know.
Chelan.
Okay.
Lake Chelan kind of dominating volleyball right now.
Are they the Goats?
Mountain Goats.
The Mountain Goats, yep.
Mountain Goats.
Phenomenal nickname. Phenomenal.
Chelan reference, teasing up my 1A picks. Maybe.
well, we might want to start 1A boys with me because I'm going to be very boring.
I am too.
All right. We know we want you to stick with what you're normally doing, being boring, so that's fine.
Oh,
whoa. That coming from the dude with the viral thing from last year's state tournament. Ooh.
What'd I do?
No, you were the one who had the viral thing. You know, we were talking.
Not hardly.
What's that
That's
viral?
not
Mr.
even.
Hot Shot.
That's not. No.
Gets one
That's
dunk
not
and just going to live off of it forever.
It's way more than one. Trust me. All right.
Nick Sisson also told me Geno Smith was going to win MVP of the NFL this year. And wow, he wasn't even. Where
Geno
was he
Smith
ranked
MVP.
quarterback?
Book it.
Was he the number 4 ranked quarterback in that division?
Bro, if he had an offensive line, man, he'd throw 45 touchdowns and 5 picks, man. I mean, I tell you what, give that man some time. Oh my gosh, he's cooking. Yeah, no, he fell off the map a little bit. Okay, so I think
that's one time off the rail, guys. They're right there.
Yeah,
so for those who are keeping
that only one?
that's
we're gonna hit the under.
Yeah, I thought it was easy
I don't
money
know.
for the over. We still got 2A to talk about. That one could.
Yeah.
Does off the rail? Do we count Bush? I mean, things fell apart, but did we go off the rail?
Oh God, man!
I didn't have ill intentions with that.
I mean, the worst part of it being the girls' team too. That's the thing that made it for me. I mean, if it was the boys' team, I'd have been like, okay, whatever. But it's like, oh my gosh, sorry, my immaturity is showing, guys. I apologize.
That's okay.
My apologies to all the females out there.
In the 1A boys at number 8, there's the Bear Creek.
The former school of one Macy Heward.
There we go. All right, let's reel it back in. 1A boys, and then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes here. At number 1, Matthew King's Annie Wright Gators. And then number 2, Royal. They play basketball too. Number 3, Linden Christian. Number 4, Zilla. 5, Kings. 6, Seton Catholic. 7, Meridian. 8, the Bear Creek. 9, Chelan. 10, Riverside. 11, Cashmere. 12, Bellevue Christian. 13, Fort Vancouver. Congratulations, Trappers. 14, La Center. 15, Overlake. And then 16, Tenino. Tenino had a tough season to start out. And to get to the tournament, that's a major accomplishment. Then don't tell them that. They're going to try to do what they can to win a game to get to Yakima. But impressions on the 1A boys and contenders.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start? Matt, go ahead. Start. I'm going to be boring. I told you.
Yeah, same. Contenders. I mean, Annie Wright, Linden Christian. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'm very boring in my picks in that I've got the top 5 seeds all making it to Saturday, and I've got Chelan there too. No, that's about it. I will say though, if we're going to talk sleepers, I have Meridian beating Royal this weekend.
Yeah, it's a contender.
Yeah,
it's Annie Wright, and then it's everyone else. And Nick, I told you to buy Annie Wright hype a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was the first one on the hype train, but I have to be in the first car on the hype train for sure. I was all over that. But if we want to talk sleepers, Linden Christian, obviously, Zilla.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we overlooking Zilla? They're the defending champions. Decker Vandegraff's back, 6'5". He's a handful. Kind of a team that is, I feel, disrespected. Memphis Jones, another stud back on that team. So I think everyone's kind of overlooking Zilla a little bit. The Leopards, they're a team who's just stacked. But again, it starts with Annie Wright, ends with Annie Wright. Yeah, there's good luck. Good luck beating that team.
Are we missing Matt, or is Matt just on no video?
I don't know.
I don't know. Hopefully we didn't lose him.
No, I'm here. Just had to put the dog away.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I think that there's obviously Annie Wright in the field. This is one of those times where if you wanted me to take a team or the field, I would go with Annie Wright here. But I don't think that the field is bad at all. I like the field in general. I think Royal is a lot tougher than what people might think. They beat that Zilla team twice this year. They won 2 out of 3. That's their only loss of the year. I mean, if your gripe is that they haven't challenged themselves, maybe how Annie Wright has schedule wise, they've played Chelan, they've played Kashmir, played Zilla a couple times. I don't think that their schedule is bad or anything like that. They also played Riverside, and they beat the brakes off of Riverside. And Riverside's a team that, won some games this year as well, against some good teams. So, I mean, I don't think Royal's being slept on as a 2, but I mean, that's kind of a term that I might think about because, you got Lyndon Christian here at number 3, and Lyndon Christian has 2 of the best guards that you're going to find, in the class. They would start on almost every roster probably until you get to maybe the 3A level. There might be some teams that have a few better, but Gannon Dykstra, Dawson Hines are guys that can light it up. I watched the game against Linden earlier this year, and when Lyndon Christian couldn't buy a bucket inside, those 2 guys, they were just hitting tough jumper after tough jumper off the dribble, step back. It was just crazy as to how good they were able to play, So Mrs. Evans must be home.
Evans is home. Hi, Miss Evans.
Yeah. But yeah, Lyndon Christian's great, guys, and I feel like the Seton Catholic's not getting talked about a lot here. I mean, I know that the bracket's pretty tough. I think they should be playing Zilla in a semifinal rematch, I think, or would have been a quarterfinal rematch from last year where they went down to the wire. Zilla was the eventual champions, but Seton Catholic, they've got a 6'5", just absolute stud in Caden Wilson. They returned all but 1 player from last year's team. Every rotation player is back this year for Seton Catholic. They got a tough draw playing Lyndon Christian, right, in the first round. They got a really tough draw. But I see them surviving. I mean, they would take on either a Kashmir or a center again. They would have no problem in that one. Meridian's a tough team as well. I like Meridian. I think Meridian's played in a really tough league, and I think that they're going to be the beneficiary of having been tested against some really good 2A teams throughout the year as well. Kings played a tough game in the Showware Center against Linden, had the lead early, but Linden just grinds on you and figures out a way to win the game. But I think that Kings had a really good showing. And then Chelan, winners of 20 games as the 9 seed. I really do think that there's a lot of depth in this class. I don't know if it's quite as simple as Annie Wright's a slam dunk win. Anything can happen tournament time. I will say that on paper, though, they should win every game by double figures.
Yeah.
Anything could happen, but most of the time anything doesn't happen. Annie Wright is running away with it. I think my hottest take is Annie Wright wins every game at state by double digits. I don't think anyone's necessarily close, but I have them beating Lyndon Christian in the state championship.
I have a hypothetical question for everybody. How many points do you think Lyndon Christian loses to La Lumiere by? I mean, Annie Wright only lost to this Indiana powerhouse by 6. How many do you think Lyndon Christian loses by? Annie Wright's the hands down
25.
Yeah, if that. I mean, it's Annie Wright's show. We're just living in it, and I agree with you. I think Annie Wright double digits by everybody. I think that we're debating the tournament MVP by the third quarter of that state championship game. I do have them beating Lyndon Christian, but yeah, I think they're head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be super boring and agree with you guys that Annie Wright is probably going to win the trophy. I got them beating Seton Catholic in the semis, and then I think they're going to end up playing Lyndon Christian in the championship game, and Lyndon Christian's just a pedigree of a team. You know, their program is phenomenal. They've always got a Dykstra on the team that's playing great, or a Bowman, or but no Bowman this year. But Dawson Heinz does fill it up as well, and Gannon Dykstra is a first team player. He's going to be first team All State. And I think that when you got a guy like that, anything's possible. When you look at what Annie Wright has, I mean, adding Noah Scow over the summer to that roster, I mean, if he's your fifth guy, to go with Martin Coathanger. I know his last name is not really Coathanger, but Jeremiah Harshman. They've just got such a phenomenal team, and their coaches are the best dressed in the whole state, probably. I think it's Annie Wright's time. I got Annie Wright winning the championship, but I think it's going to be against Linden Christian, and don't be surprised if Linden Christian gives them a run for their money and makes them earn it. They've played a really tough schedule, and they know what it takes to win at Yakima.
I have a question. If Annie Wright played Montesano, how many points would Annie Wright win by?
Would the margin of victory be higher than Montesano's point total?
Running clock, third quarter.
Running clock, second quarter.
That's being generous.
Running clock, second quarter. What? No.
Just a question.
It would be 88-27 or something like that. What? I'm just being honest. I'm sorry.
No, it's the question that popped up. I was just.
All right.
I need a hat if Montesano. I need a hat if Montesano even came remotely close to beating Annie Wright.
Justin, Monty would be favored by 12.5. Oh.
You have the entire town of Montesano on the court at once, and Annie Wright would still beat him.
Have they taken the fluoride out of the water over there yet? Or
they're actually voting on that here in Longview, I think, or trying to figure that out. That exact thing. Yeah.
That's twice.
All right.
We've gotten off the rails.
Yeah, we just two times. We're getting close.
All right. So I want to just say real quick, I think Riverside is a double-digit seed, is a team that can maybe win some games. In this tournament, they've played Pullman. I believe they played West Valley as well earlier this year. Spokane. They won that game against West Valley Spokane, by the way. So I mean, who knows? Anything can happen. Justin, what?
He's trying to get the video demonetized.
Yeah, good deal. Well, it doesn't take heart much. All right, boys. What we've all been waiting for. We all know it. Where do you want to start first? We're gonna get to 2A.
Boys.
Yeah.
Boys first. Yakima Valley Sundome. Here we go. Make sure you let friends and family know that we are finally gonna talk 2A boys basketball here. My favorite topic, by the way. All right. So at number 1, Linden, big shock. Number 2, R.A. Long. Number 3, Bremerton. Number 4, West Valley Spokane. 5, Sela. Lakewood at 6. Foster at 7. And then Mark Morris at 8. Squim at 9. Prosser at 10. Columbia River 11. Franklin Pierce 12. Bainbridge 13. Renton at 14. Ridgefield at 15. And Lindbergh, the 16 seed. All right. Somebody other than me is going to have to talk first.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, it all starts with Linden, obviously. Yep. The perennial power. Someone told me before the season started, R.A. Long would be playing for a state championship. I might have laughed that one off a little bit. Turns out I was the fool there, because they definitely could be. Yeah, I beat you.
Who told you that?
That's what happens when I get to go first. I get to pull that one out first. The best player in this tournament plays for the 3 seed. So that always is going to make Bremerton a contender. West Valley's got momentum on their side. Sela's been towards the top of the classification the entire time. Lakewood just beat Linden. So that obviously, I mean, you want to go up and down this classification. It is pretty stacked. Columbia River at an 11 and Prosser at a 10 are probably the highest seeds I'd go for trophy. I know, Nick, you got your rant you'll go on. but it's going to be a fun turn. I think you're going to see a lot of close games in this tournament. You could convince me about a handful of different semifinal matchups, but we always start with the favorites. Linden's the favorite. They're going to be the favorite for good reason.
Yeah, I agree. It's Linden's tournament. It's just going to be who plays against them. How, who's going to get there, who's going to stay hot. I agree. I think there's going to be lots of close games. I would set an over under of 5 overtimes for this, for not including the regional round, but I'd say 5 overtimes for this one. I think it's going to be a really, really a nail biting tournament. A lot of folks are going to come into this tournament with their normal colored hair and leave with gray hairs. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
I'm going to leave this live stream with gray hair by the time we get done talking 2A girls, man. Whew, you want to talk about stressful.
Don't get us started yet.
All right, so I like to play this game, Life or Linden, and I usually choose Linden in that scenario. And the joke stems from, the other day my wife goes, so who's the best team in 2A? And I'm like, well, the top seed is Linden. She's like, so are they the best team? And I said, listen, if someone knocked at our door and said, we're going to take your house unless you bet and get correct on who's going to win the state championship, every time I'm going to put my life in Linden's hands. Whatever happens, I'm going to live with the results. Yeah. They're fresh off of a loss, though. I mean, they did avenge that loss against Archbishop Murphy. I don't know whether to give Lakewood a lot of credit or Linden a lot of flack, for the way that the game played out. My meter leans towards Lakewood credit, because, with Linden up 4, they, intentionally fouled. Lakewood goes to the line, hits 2, and then Lakewood comes out, hits a 3. And then after Linden answers with a 3, Lakewood hits the game-winning 3. Like, they hit every shot they needed to hit down the stretch. Excuse me. So you got to give Lakewood credit. But, man, that mistake there, that is not something that Linden does. Mm-hmm. They do not commit intentional fouls up 4 under a minute to go and then watch a game dissipate right in front of them for a district championship. That is not who they are. I will say this, though. They've got Batman again with Brent Hepner. Mm-hmm. But last year's Batman was Anthony Canales. Anthony Canales was the Batman for the 3 years prior to that. And, Brent Hepner was the Robin, so to speak. He had a huge game against Grandview in the state championship. Matthew and I were there to watch that game. I was on the call for the game. Linden did a phenomenal job in that game. They've got plenty of size. Brant Hepner's a first team player. He, could be the state tournament MVP. So obviously it starts with them as the favorite. After that, excuse me, got to clear my throat. Guys, I could make a case for 6 teams legitimately to have a chance to be their opposite of them. I really could.
Foster?
Yeah, Foster's getting a lot of crap, right? Because of where they're seated at 7. Foster played a tough schedule. They played some tough teams.
They actually went down and they played in the Tarkanian Classic down in Nevada and actually did pretty well down there. I mean, they weren't in like the platinum bracket, but they went. I think they got at least 3 wins down there. I mean, not too shabby. They are. I agree.
No.
They're 7 seed. Yeah, they may be a little too high, but I mean, that's a really talented team right there.
No, there's eyebrows raised down here about Foster. Like, what are we going to expect when they come and they play RI Long in Mark Morris High School on Saturday? And this team is athletic. They're very athletic. They thrive in chaos. If they can get the game up and down without a lot of structure, they're going to make life pretty tough on just about anybody. Mm-hmm. With that said, though, I could talk for hours probably about this bracket, honestly. Bremerton at 3 with Jalen Davis, back for his sophomore season after the freshman year that he had last year and the performances that he had. I mean, that kid brought me that whole Bremerton team almost brought me to tears last year against Linden because of how gutted they were at the very end of the game. And that kid has had all summer to think about how he didn't get the last shot in that game against Linden and a chance to get to the championship game. They didn't come out and play against North Kitsap the next day on Saturday. They showed up, but they didn't. They weren't interested in playing for anything but the championship. As a 3 seed, Bremerton, oh man, I mean, that is just super dangerous. And then you got West Valley Spokane that ended Grandview's season abruptly, and they lost some games to some 2B schools, and everybody was thinking, oh man, West Valley Spokane's not even going to be the tournament. I know a lot of people that were seeding teams, up and down on paper, and they were like, West Valley, yeah, they're eliminated. They're not going to. I was in the group. I thought Grandview was going to win that game going away. Yep. And then you got RA Long, a team that I've covered all season long. I was the person that told Matthew King that this team would probably be playing for a state championship this year. I told Matt Evans as well at our last football broadcast. And, Matt was, big shock. Of course I'm going to pick them. Well, you know what? All they've done is gone out and earned it. Their only loss is by 1 point to Columbia River on the road early in the season. They beat them 2 out of 3 times. They've beaten Mark Morris 3 times. They beat Seton Catholic. They beat Fort Vancouver. They've got 10 wins against teams that are playing in a state tournament. Guys, at what point are they not legitimate? At what point are they not going to be a team considered to be a favorite? They've got only 2 seniors on the roster as well, which is crazy to think about, that they've got a bulk of their team coming back. I really like where the Lumberjacks are at. I could make a case, though, for Prosser to be there on Friday, Saturday. I could make a case for Columbia River to be there. I can make a case for Franklin Pierce. And I know a lot of people don't really know Prosser, but they're a team that is dynamic, and they can do some things. We'll see how it goes, but it's going to be a wild tournament between the 2A boys. I know I said a lot there.
I knew you could keep going. I didn't think you were going to be done quite yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to keep it within a reasonable structure, But yeah, with that said, I mean, even Mark Morris, in the 3 games they played against RA Long, they were really close. They beat everybody else except Ridgefield, and then on that night they were missing 2 starters. So, and they beat Columbia River twice without a starter as well. I mean, they're a really tough team. If I'm Linden, I'm not happy about playing Mark Morris in the first game.
No, I owned up immediately. I was wrong about RA Long. I was.
Well, they haven't played for the state championship yet. You don't have to say you're wrong. It's okay.
No, because I'll own up to it. I didn't even think they'd be a contender, but clearly a swing and a miss on that one. Luckily, that wasn't on a video, so Nick could make anti-Matthew King take video, but it's all good. This comes down to who plays Linden for me. It really, really does. I mean, Roper he's a guy who can take a team that might not be as talented as years past and make them look just as good, if not better, than those teams of years past. So these Lions, you called Hepner Batman. Well, Nick, I'm going to move into my championship prediction. I think Bane, the man who broke Batman, is in this tournament. Give me Jalen Davis and Bremerton. I got Bremerton winning the state championship, taking down Linden and ending that. Again, when it comes to Linden, you mentioned it, Nick. You have to play perfect basketball down the stretch, and you needed Linden to have maybe their worst half of basketball under maybe Coach Roper. I don't think that's off kilter with how bad they played in that first half against Lakewood. And Lakewood, again, played perfectly down the stretch. That's what it takes to beat Linden, and I think Bremerton's a team who can do it. I think Bremerton cuts down the nets in what could be not only Jalen Davis's first state championship.
Sure.
I like your reasoning, but I think Jalen Davis's first state championship comes next year. I think that Bremerton finishes 3rd, and they go through a very similar thing that they went through this last year, where they make it semifinals and they lose a heartbreaker to a team from Longview. And I think that team from Longview goes on, loses to Linden in the state championship, but I think that Bremerton's a year away. That being said, I have Linden beating Mark Morris for the state championship.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
I did too. I felt it. That's awesome. It doesn't bother me, really. I love both teams. They're great. They couldn't be better.
Dalton Stevens is my dog, man.
Bro, he's
I love
amazing.
that kid, man. That kid is awesome.
He's amazing.
I love Mark Morris. I think, it is tough to beat a team 3 times. 4 times, I've got Mark Morris and R.A. Long on Thursday. I've got Mark Morris beating R.A. Long in the game that matters the most. And I think that Mark Morris rides that momentum to the state championship game where they eventually lose to Linden. But powder blue for this guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not a bad pick at all. I mean, I think that Mark Morris is more than likely to beat Linden this weekend than in a state championship setting. Because they're not going to have to worry about, playing under the big lights where Linden is, so experienced. They've done it so many times. I think they've won, I want to say 5 out of 6, state championships. I think the only team that's won over the last 6 times is North Kitsap. In a game that Linden was up big, by the way. I don't disagree with where Linden's at there. I think that Linden's in the right spot. How I got things going down, I'll just go through it real quick here. I got Linden over Mark Morris in the first one, R.A. Long over Foster, Bremerton over Lakewood, Sela over West Valley Spokane, and then I got Squim Prosser, Columbia River, and Franklin Pierce.
I got Bainbridge.
Okay. I think Franklin Pierce is better than their league allows them to seem, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Put some respect on Clover Park. I think Franklin Pierce, that Clover Park team, you want a team to buy stock on for next year. Mm-hmm. Look at the Timberwolves. But I'm with you, Nick, because of that. I think Franklin Pierce beats Bainbridge as well.
Yeah. Beyond that, I mean, I got Columbia River beating Lakewood, guys, in the first round. I think matchup-wise, that's a great game for Columbia River. If they're healthy, they had a player that, went down in the R.A. Long semifinal. He's a contributor, if he's healthy, I think that they're as dangerous as anybody. I've got Prosser beating Foster and sending Foster home. I've got Franklin Pierce and West Valley playing, and then I got West Valley sending Franklin Pierce home, and then I've got Mark Morris beating Squim. I got Sela over River, Linden over Prosser, Bremerton over West Valley, R.A. Long over Mark Morris, and then Linden over Sela in the semis, and R.A. Long over Bremerton. Those 2 teams played last year in a winner to Yakima loser out game. And R.A. Long led in the fourth quarter. That same Jalen Davis team, by the way. And they held to the lowest point total of the tournament. And, they added 2 guys and returned almost everybody. In the trophy games, I got Prosser over Mark Morris. I got in the 4th, 6th place game, I got Bremerton over Sela in the 3rd, 5th. And then I've got big shock. I'm going to go for it. R.A. Long over Linden in the championship. I'm not going to imagine that they're going to sleep an ounce going into that game because they played Linden a couple years ago and it was a tie ball game under a minute to go. Matthew King was probably there on that game, maybe on that call. But, that's really when Anthony Canales started to have his coming out party, and R.A. Long, they suffered the Bremerton heartbreak from last year, and it's tough to get back to these games. And R.A. Long, I don't think as a program has ever played for a state championship. So, what better way to culminate a season where, I'm not going to say that there's been a lot of negativity thrown towards R.A. Long, but, there's been some people talking about how their program has come along, with some players coming to play for them this year and Josh Crane and Cam Newsom and, no fault of the kids, no fault of the coaches. This is the landscape that we live in. If you want to play for another team that betters your chance of getting exposure, betters your chance of getting to a state championship, so be it. There have been so many other teams that have done it, and no one's had a problem with it until some team that never used to be really good is all of a sudden really good. I'm not here for that talk. R.A. Long has earned it. They've played so many tough teams this year. They've got a guy that can match up with Hepner and Rhett Young, who's 6'9". They've got a perfect balance of a roster. Guys, I've watched them down in almost every game this year, and they come back and they win. The second quarter is where they really start to pull away from teams. My biggest concern about Linden this year is who is the second guy, right? Who's the guy you lean on? They got a lot of guys that can step up and score between 6 to 12 a night. But is it Gordy Bedlington? Is it Spencer Adams? They got a bunch of guys that can play. But if Hepner's the only guy, they got, I think, what is it, Stapleton? Another 6'7" guy. I mean, they got some dudes, but if you're going to take away their first option, who's going to be the next guy to step up? It's always been a team mentality. You guys both mentioned Coach Roper. Obviously, he'll figure out a way to push the right buttons. I want to see it answered. I don't know yet. And I think Matthew's pick with Bremerton, I think that's a great pick. I think the winner of that game between Bremerton and Ari Long wins it. I'm not sold on Linden winning the championship this year. I think both those teams present matchup problems. I think they can match up very well. They're both very athletic teams.
I want to throw in, I do like your Prosser take too. I have them going to Saturday as well, finishing 6th, losing to Ari Long.
Yeah. This show's not going to end without us mentioning the most prolific scorer in Prosser history, Kobe McClure. That guy's a walking bucket.
Heck yes.
I told Nick last week that Prosser was my sneaky team when the brackets came out as well that can go on a run, and I've got them going to Saturday too.
I think Sela matches up really well with Linden too, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Linden's got a slam dunk path here. They're going to have to play some games.
See, and that's my thought too. Is like I have them winning, but it's not like an Annie Wright thing where I think they're going to dominate. I think that it's going to be one of those things. First game probably going to be, but I think it's going to be really tight the whole rest of the way through, and they're going to have to grind through and take that leadership and that experience that they've had over the last few years. That's going to be the thing that kind of lifts them to that gold ball again.
Well, like I said, we got a bunch of teams here, that we could talk about more. But I think that we pretty much covered everything that we want to say, unless there's something else that you guys have on your mind before we turn the page and go to the girls' side.
Yeah.
By the way, if Mark Morris and Ari Long play in the quarterfinals as the scheduler for these broadcasts, I will be on the call. Nick will be nowhere near it.
Nope.
That's a joke. Longview fans, no. I told Nick if he's there, he's calling that game if it happens. Please don't come at me.
Well, I already told Matt that if I'm doing the championship game and one of them's in it, that I'm doing that, so it's all good, Matter of fact, I'm just gonna let the chips fall where they fall. I just hope I get to do at least under 4.5 broadcasts with Matt King. But I know.
Are you gonna be there?
I'm thinking so. Yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear you call Lyndon and Mark Morris on Saturday night.
Yeah. I love it. I have no problem with it. Both of these teams support one another, believe it or not. Even when they're not playing, they're rooting for one another.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. 2 public schools separated by 1 man-made lake, 2 miles, and about 5 squirrel bridges.
I don't know I'm a Chehalis guy. I don't know what it's like having a close rival.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Sorry, Centralia.
Yeah.
That's okay. My school was in a different classification than all the schools in my area, so our closest rival was Prosser.
The Stangs.
Mm-hmm. The good old Stangs. Back in the Kellen Moore days, but that's 3. That's 3. Sorry.
I had the 3.
That's 3.
All right.
Did it count as 4? I feel like that should count as 4. We kind of went off twice.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. We can.
Are we still counting the 1A 15 seed thing as going off the rails?
What was that? Remind me what that was.
I am not going to say that again.
We kind of did
go
take
back
it off
and rewind.
the rails. Yeah,
that was
okay.
me laughing hysterically.
That's okay.
Okay, 2A girls.
Right,
2A girls.
Mans, both you guys, let's do it. Let's do it. 2A girls. Oh, this is gonna be such a good bracket. Oh my god. Linden's number 1. Debatable. Ellensburg number 2. Deer Park 3. WF West 4. Archbishop 5. Prosser 6. Columbia River 7. Bainbridge 8. Woodland 9. Port Angeles 10. Eatonville 11, 12 North Mason, 13 Renton, 14 Ridgefield, 15 Cedar Crest, and then 16 Sultan.
All right, so I'll just start it off. Do we have anybody in the top, outside of the top 6 making it Saturday?
No.
No.
Okay, there we go. So we've established it.
Now, hold on. I do
ahead.
want to shout out one player who's not on one of those teams. Eatonville has Bailey Anderson, who might be the best scorer outside of those top 6 teams. She just deserves a shout out. And Woodland is also a team on the up and up. I just want to give those teams their flowers, and also North Mason. Hats off to them for getting to the state tournament. There's some really cool stories outside of the top 6.
And congratulations to Sultan as well, being stranded without a league and making it into the tournament. I mean, it's a great accomplishment for those guys. Great for that program at school.
All right, real quick. Matthew, excuse me, you shook your head when I said debatable when Linden being number 1. There's no debate?
No, I think Linden is clearly number 1. They're the defending champions. There's no reason to bump them out of that number 1 spot, I don't believe. I think to take that number – I know people hate going back to last year, but sometimes that's all that there is to kind of split the difference, and I think that's what it really comes down to with Ellensburg and Linden. It comes down to what can we use to break this tie, and I think you go back to last year, and Linden won.
All I would say is that, being on the call for that game, watching the giant slate that is Ellensburg, I felt honestly, guys, like Ellensburg just didn't play a good game. I got to give Linden some credit, but I didn't feel like Ellensburg played their brand of basketball, and before you know it, you looked up in the third quarter and Linden's not just hanging around, they're going back and forth with you. And you sit there and you wonder, okay, when are these guys gonna go away and realize we're Ellensburg? Well, that just never happened. It never culminated into the night that Ellensburg envisioned it being. Obviously you got to give Linden a lot of credit. This season, if we're going to go off of just this season alone, guys, they're both 24-0. Linden's closest game was 16 points. Ellensburg's closest was 15 points. The separator here is that Linden played more teams that ended up playing in a state tournament. They ended up having 9 wins versus teams in a tournament. And then Ellensburg 4, with 3 of them being Prosser. So it's tough to look at the resume, I think, for Ellensburg and confidently say, hey, they should be number 1. But I do feel that both of these teams have pound for pound, the claim to maybe being the best in the state. Outside of that, Deer Park, by the way, 23-0. They just don't play the games to boost the record up. But for 23-0, they've put together one of the best seasons also in the class. Only 2 wins against tournament teams, but they've played some tough games against some teams in Idaho this year.
Well, and the one thing we have to factor in with Deer Park is the fact that they had 3 potential games, good games, taken away from them by Mother Nature because they were not able to make it over to the top of the peak tournament. I think that they would have made a run to the finals there, and I would have loved to have watched them play Chiawana. In fact, I'll be honest with you guys. After that tournament was canceled, I did a lot of work to try to find games for Deer Park, because I was like, I want to watch them play more. I want to get them stuff. And I wasn't able to find anything. They got the stuff done, but man, yeah, that's that team. Oh God.
Yeah, they're super good. WF West at 4, Archbishop at 5, Prosser at 6.
No gripes here.
Oh yeah, I think that I think it's perfect. I think the top 7 seeds are perfect.
Yep.
I don't have an issue with anything.
I'm gonna say top 8, Nick. I throw Bainbridge in there.
Yeah.
I think they more than deserve that 8 seed.
Yep.
Yeah, I got no problems with where we're at here. I think you got to have Bainbridge there, honestly, because they're a district champion. So, you got to. That's what they did with Foster. That's the reason why they're in the top 8. They're a district champion. They want to gatekeep for, winning districts. It's got to mean something, right? So
I like that mentality. I want to put that out there.
Yeah. Or is Port Angeles the district champion? Port Angeles was won 9 in a row.
Yeah, Port Angeles was the district champion.
Oh, they beat
Excuse me.
Bainbridge.
Port Angeles was
it was a close game though, but
they should
Bainbridge
be
was
number
there.
8.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I take it back. Rough Riders for number 8.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So guys, real quick, I mean, where's your heart leaning here, right? I mean, we all know that the top 6 are contenders. It's just coming down to matchups here. I mean,
don't ask me about my heart. I love so many teams in this tournament. I really do. And it's not I like their team. I like the coaching staff. I like the players. My heart isn't going to be able to make this pick. I'm going to have to make it with my brain, although my heart's going to have an influence too. But, I mean, I can talk about every single one of these teams. For Linden, young, have plenty of experience, though. Peyton Mills, of course, was the catalyst in that state championship run last year. Finley Parcher might be the best sophomore girls player in the state. Ellensburg, always locked and loaded. This team is coming in ticked off after losing last year. They're starting a whole new win streak this season. Laney Rogel, Jamison Phillip, I mean, good luck. Might be the best 1-2 punch. Deer Park, Ashlyn Bryant might be the coolest player of all time. Sophomore, should only be a freshman now, by the way. That's how smart she is. Brooklyn Coe is a 3-point assassin. Then you got Emma Bryant as well. I mean, up and down that roster so deep. Of course, WF West graduate, so I got to put that out there. A little bit of bias. Julia Dalen is the Bryn McGoy of this classification, can score anywhere. Free throw assassin. So if you foul her, okay, you're just giving them 2 points. Dylan Beck, kind of a player who might be under the radar. She's an incredible shooter. Grace Simpson has taken huge strides as well. And that full court press that the Bearcats will throw at you is going to give anyone troubles. Archbishop Murphy, again, it's just experience. It's confidence. This team has a swagger led by their head coach. They're just, for me, I would have personally flipped Archbishop Murphy and Prosser. I think Prosser's losses, I get why they're behind Archbishop Murphy because Prosser just more losses, but I don't think those losses are necessarily bad losses at all. They've got a player who, Laylee Dixon, she's a special talent as well, but also Deidre Phillips, another great player. This Prosser team's returning almost everyone from last year's team. I can't wait to see any of these 6 teams play each other. I told Nick I'm going to be sitting on the 2A girls court the entire time. You guys figure out what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you got Irby Wright as well with Prosser too. I mean, yeah. I think that my bracket is going to show how I feel about these teams, obviously. I mean, all of ours will. Resume-wise, Matthew, I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with where Archbishop's at 5. You know, they had 7 wins versus teams in the tournament. Their only losses were to teams from Linden Christian and Linden. So, you know, nothing to sneeze about. I mean, they got a taste of what it's like to play, you know, against the Lions this year, lost by 16. And it didn't start out so bad, though, for Archbishop Murphy, but Linden started to wear on him a little bit. And, you know, they got a really good player, Archbishop does. And is it Blaché? Is that how you pronounce it? Or Blackley? I can't remember, Brooke Blaché or Blackley or something like that. But, yeah, she's a really good player. I should know that by pronouncing her name correctly. That's a good sign. But yeah, other than that, I mean, you already touched on it with WF West, Matthew. You know, Julia Dalen. You know what needs to be said. You know, she's a tough guard for anybody. You know, Dylan Beck. I mean, I don't know if she's being slept on by anybody. As a sophomore, averaging 20.5 a game, she's the difference between this WF West team and last year's team. Even though she was on the roster, you know, she's definitely taken a huge step forward for them and taking pressure off of Dalen. And they got BB as well coming over. You know, still got Amanda Bennett. They got a lot of Caitlin Klopak. They got a lot of
Klopak. Yep.
Ava Cushman not there anymore, or is she on the roster buried there somewhere?
I don't think she's there anymore. But this team, Maddie McMahon. I mean, you can look up and down that roster. Yeah.
But you I think Bella Standish was the only player that I didn't hear from Ellensburg that's also still there, and Lane Rogel and you mentioned Jameson Phillip. They're a major problem for anybody. Outside of those teams, there's some good players scattered about. Kennedy Bachert for Woodland is a great player. She set the school record earlier this year for points in a game that I was on the call for. She had like a 38-27 game where she had 30 points, 27 rebounds. I mean, just an absolute monster, so she's a very tough player to guard. But I think it's just going to come down to matchups here, guys. I mean, I don't know what else to say than that. Let's go through our Saturday real quick, or our Friday and Saturday, to how we get here.
I should go last.
Okay. I don't even have my bracket filled out.
So you don't have it filled out?
No, I didn't fill out Matt Evans' bracket yet. Sorry, it's been a busy week.
Awesome.
Okay, well then I'll go first. All right. So I got Linden obviously against Bainbridge. I got Ellensburg obviously against Columbia River. I'm going to go Deer Park in the first game against Prosser in the regional round. I think that's a close game, really close game. And then I'm going to go WF West over Archbishop Murphy. I know that Archbishop has the advantage having beaten them last year, but I think that the growth of Dylan Beck and the additions that they've gotten as well to complement Julia Dalen, I think that they've just got a few more tools than Archbishop does if Dalen's not having the typical night that she does. Defenses were doing a good job of double teaming her last year and trying to take her away. So in that first regional game, I got WF West, and then I got Woodland over Sultan, Port Angeles over Cedar Crest, Ridgefield over Eatonville, Renton over North Mason.
Okay. Yeah. I've got Linden over Bainbridge, Ellensburg over Columbia River. I've got Deer Park over Prosser. I've got Archbishop Murphy over WF West, and then Woodland, Port Angeles, Eatonville, North Mason.
I just want to throw out there real quick for Ridgefield. This is a team that started 0-8, and they've won 11 out of their last 15 games. They've played 9 games versus tournament teams. They were missing a key player at the start of the season. They lost 2 players to transfer to Union last year. Hats off to Ridgefield for getting to this point. And I know Eatonville's a 21-4 team, but not a ton of games against higher profile teams. And I'm really curious to see how that matchup plays out. I could flip a coin on that one, honestly. Anybody else? Matthew, you got anything? Or you said you didn't have it filled out?
I don't have it filled out, but I can go through the first round. I just can't piece it together. Linden over Bainbridge, Ellensburg over Columbia River, Deer Park over Prosser. I got WF West over Archbishop Murphy. The big thing is WF West playing at home. They're going to play on their home floor. I know Archbishop beat them on that floor last year, but this Bearcat team is very different. I like Woodland over Sultan, Port Angeles over Cedar Crest. I've got Eatonville over Ridgefield. I think if there is a surprise team playing on Saturday, I really think it could be Eatonville. I really think they might be getting slept on a little bit. And I've got North Mason over Renton. So I just pretty much went chalk.
Yeah.
Okay. For the next round, this would be Thursday's games. I got Prosser over Ridgefield, Columbia River over Port Angeles, Archbishop over Renton, and Woodland over Bainbridge.
I've got Prosser over Eatonville, Columbia River over Port Angeles, WF West over North Mason, and Bainbridge over Woodland.
Okay. All right. Matthew,
yeah, he's typing him in. I can hear it.
You would be looking at Eatonville Prosser based on where you were at, and then River Port Angeles, Archbishop Renton, and then Bainbridge Woodland.
No worries, he's almost caught up.
Yeah, don't worry. Just give me a second.
You're on it.
I'm in it right now.
Yeah, I'm watching him right there. There it is.
Yeah. That's
here. I'll fill out your losers.
All right, perfect. See, teamwork makes dream work.
This is good podcasting right here.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, you're good.
All right. Perfect. Nailed it. No problem. All right. So I'd have Prosser over Eatonville. Why I think Eatonville can be that sneaker. I just don't quite think that they've got what it takes to beat one of those top 6, unfortunately, for the Cruisers. Port Angeles and Columbia River. I like Columbia River's depth, so I'm going to give the Rapids the edge in that one. And then Archbishop Murphy over North Mason. And give me Woodland over Bainbridge. I can't go all chalk, so I'll take the Beavers. Bacher is a freak of nature. The only reason that they kind of got blown out by WF West is because WF West has the perfect counter in Dalen. But that's a team who can shoot threes and play on the inside as well. So give me Woodland there.
All right. Let's go through the next round real quick. Prosser versus WF West in my bracket here. And I went with Prosser in this game. And then Linden over River. I got Deer Park against Archbishop Murphy, and then I got Deer Park winning that one. And then Ellensburg over Woodland.
So I've got Prosser and Archbishop Murphy. I've got Prosser winning that one. I've got Linden over Columbia River. I've got Deer Park versus WF West. Good inside-outside battle. I think that Deer Park shoots the lights out, and I think Deer Park takes down WF West. And then I've got Ellensburg over Bainbridge.
Okay. All right, so I've got Prosser and WF West. I've got WF West winning. I think they have a chip on their shoulder after losing to Prosser last year. Columbia River against Linden. I got Linden. Linden's just too tall, too lengthy, and they got too many players who can score, too much depth. Archbishop Murphy and Deer Park. I have Deer Park, again, like Matt said, a team that can just shoot lights out, and they're one of the exceptions on teams who can shoot lights out at these domes because I watched them do it last year, and I've got Ellensburg over Woodland as well.
All right, Friday, make it break it day. WF West is in this game against Columbia River for me, and I got WF West eliminating Columbia River. And then I've got Archbishop eliminating Woodland. And then I got semifinal Linden over Prosser. And this was the game that was like really, really hard for me, guys. Like Deer Park and Ellensburg, I think they mirror one another so much. But I gave, in terms of athleticism and ball movement and pressure, I gave the edge to Deer Park here because of the ability to shoot from long range more consistently. If they're able to get into their groove, they shot lights out last year. I think that they're going to end up beating Ellensburg here.
So I've got Archbishop Murphy playing Columbia River, and as I teased earlier, I've got Archbishop Murphy winning. I've got WF West over Bainbridge. First semifinal. Actually, I'm going to go second semifinal first. Second semifinal. I've got Deer Park Ellensburg. I've got Ellensburg beating Deer Park. Very close game. Going to be good. I have the Prosser Mustangs beating Linden in the semifinals. You know, I think that this loss, Prosser's loss in the regional round to Deer Park, is going to be a thing that lights the fire under them. I think they get hot, and they're one of those teams that catches the Wednesday roller coaster and just goes straight up. There's always one or two of those teams in a venue that has to play Wednesday that just ignites and I think that Prosser's that team. So I have Prosser beating Linden in the semifinals.
So I've got Prosser in the consolation, so I'm going to be off on that one. I've got them beating Columbia River, and then I have Archbishop Murphy beating Woodland. In my semifinals, I've got WF West and Linden. This is my homer coming out. I got the Bearcats. Again, this is Julia Dalen's senior year. I think she is going to go off in this tournament. And like Nick said, they've got that perimeter threat now with Dylan Beck, and they also have a point guard who can set the table for Julia Dalen and Amanda Bennett. I think WF West beats Linden. Linden, again, young but experienced. I just think they aren't going to be quite prepared for Julia Dalen with Dylan Beck on the perimeter. And then I got Deer Park and Ellensburg, and I got Ellensburg beating Deer Park. I think this is where that move up to 2A kind of catches up with the Stags a little bit. I think they keep it close, but I think Ellensburg is a team who's coming in very angry after last year. And I think there's nothing that's going to stop Ellensburg from being in the state championship.
Okay. On to Trophy Saturday. I got a rematch here between WF West and Archbishop in the 4-6 game, and I went with WF West again.
Mhm.
And then I went Prosser Ellensburg in the 3rd-5th game, and Ellensburg's had their way with Prosser this year, so I'm going to stick with that theme. Ellensburg, a 3rd-place trophy? Gosh, that just doesn't sound right. And then Linden and Deer Park in the championship game. You know how I got to this point was just going off of last year. Last year counts in some regard, and Matthew and I were courtside for these games. And, if you use transitive properties from last year, Nooksack Valley beat Linden, the eventual 2A champions. And Deer Park had Nooksack Valley on the ropes, and Deer Park's returning just about everybody. I know that we want to believe that, there's going to be a big difference between the competition here at the state level and the 2A ranks. And, there will be in terms of how many games you got to win in a row. But make no mistake about it, guys. Deer Park is built for this moment. They were ready to win it last year. They just couldn't come up with the shots late. I'm going with them over Linden in the championship. Fear the Deer.
Fear the Deer. I have to bust out my Lady Stag softball sweatshirt for that one. Which I found in Spokane at the Goodwill right across the street from the Spokane Arena for $5, by the way. Great thing. It's 2 sizes too small also. Anyways, okay, so my Saturday, I also have that Archbishop Murphy WF West rematch. I have WF West winning that one as well. My consolation 3rd-5 game is Linden and Deer Park, and I think that Deer Park wins it, not necessarily because they're going to be the better team in that, but I think Linden is just kind of coming off of they thought that they were going to get to the state championship, kind of that hangover of, I think that Deer Park beats them. And then I've got an all CWAC final between Prosser and Ellensburg. Boys, what did I say about R.A. Long and Mark Morris? It's tough to beat a team 4 times in a row. Gentlemen, the Prosser Mustangs are winning the 2A girls. Book it.
I heard book it at the end.
You cut out there. It kind of took
out a little bit. But I heard that, ladies and gentlemen, the Prosser Mustangs are going to win it.
They're going to win it.
Right. I've got Prosser in the 4th and 6th place game, so I disagree with Matt clearly. But I've got them beating Archbishop Murphy in that 4th and 6th place game. Shout out Laylee Dixon. She's going to put on a show every time she steps on the floor. I got Linden and Deer Park in the 3rd 5 place matchup. And I've got Linden. I just don't think Deer Park has the size to deal with the top tier teams in the 2A classification, especially a team like Linden that has size for days. And I've got WF West against Ellensburg in the championship. And gentlemen, as if there is ever a doubt, I've got the WF West Bearcats winning the state championship. Julia Dalen, her senior year, she's come in. She just looks different this year, and she already looked incredible, but just the way she plays defense is special. Her offense is incredible. She can score 3 from beyond the arc. She can score at the free throw line. She can score at the bucket. Again, there's never a position on the court where she can't score, but she racks up blocks in bulk, and she doesn't pick up fouls while doing it. Again, I think the combination of Amanda Bennett and Julia Dalen, that point guard to center, is just too much. And then as soon as you collapse on Dylan Beck, she's going to play with utter confidence. She hasn't seen a shot she doesn't believe she can hit. And again, Grace Simpson and Caitlin Klopek, I think, are kind of the X factors. They just add another depth to the scoring. And I think, shout out Coach Karnofsky. He gets to cut down the nets for the Bearcats.
Love it.
All right. You know, what I love is that we've all got somebody different in this class too, that we didn't have any boring moments to where we were like, oh, okay, I guess we're all going to pick this, And by the way, none of us picked Linden. None of us picked Ellensburg. So what the hell is wrong with us?
We all try and go bold and not expecting anyone else to go bold. So we all end up probably looking stupid.
Listen, I don't think it's so bold for who we picked. I really don't. I think that there's a case to be made for all 6 of these teams.
Yep. And in all honesty, too, like this one, the other ones, I felt pretty solid, but this one, I spent like half an hour, like 45 minutes, literally, like, I knew the top 6. I felt the top 6 on Saturday, but after that, I just
You could ask me to fill out this
what
bracket
you know.
in 30 minutes, and I'd probably have different results.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you want to play as many options as you can, you know.
Exactly.
You know, it's just I can see, you know, for what you're saying, Matthew, I can see exactly what you're saying play out. You know, the difference between last year and the year before that, even with WF West, is, you know, when they got to the tournament, you know, they were throwing double teams at Julia Dalen. There was really nobody to take any pressure off her. Triple teams, you know, and you need to have somebody else to be able to step up and hit shots. And, you know, their ball movement's gotten better. Their defensive pressure's gotten better. They're running clock teams in, you know, the districts. You know, they're just going through everybody. Their only losses to Homa by 3 points, you know, so they've played a pretty tough schedule.
And they led that game most of the way.
If they get going and Dalen gets comfortable, you know, I watched her deflect 3 or 4 straight pass attempts in that Columbia River game, and it was a laugher early. That game could have been 50 points if they wanted to. Really, like if they really wanted to. She could have set the district single game record if she wanted to, or if the coach wanted to, you know. They just didn't need to.
They don't care about that.
Yeah, it's better to save it, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I could make a case for anybody.
I've gotten to chat with both Kyle Karnofsky and Rob Adams, the head coaches of WF West and Linden, and it's fascinating to listen to them kind of analyze the rest of the 2A field. And again, they're like 2 teams who could be playing for trophies didn't even make the state tournament. So that's how loaded of a field this is in the 2A classification. It's going to be something else. And again, I love all 6 of the top 6 seeds. I love the coaches. Amazing people, the players, great kids, just a great environment that those coaches have built. So all of those communities should be proud. And whoever wins the 2A state title for girls, man, you're going to be able to say that you earned it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We should have the winner take on the Annie Wright boys.
I want to see Annie Wright take on the 2A boys state champions.
Yes.
There you go. We can do that. Wasn't that a game that was supposed to happen before they went to the Les Schwab Invitational?
Yeah.
They were supposed to play Linden.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to win the 2A state title though.
I'm just saying they would have been playing. Yeah,
it could be It could be Bremerton.
It could be.
It could be Arlington.
It could be Foster.
It could be Prosser.
It could be.
They could sweep.
Anything could happen.
A Prosser sweep.
I'm expecting a great tournament at Yakima. I think it's going to be
I'm glad you're going to be there, Nick. I'm glad you're going to be there. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Fingers crossed. I may be up there on Saturday. We're not sure. Fingers crossed. We'll see. See if I can get the go ahead.
So you don't have to listen to us talk about it.
Go to Miners.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Go to Miners. What else we got? I'm sure they got an Olive Garden there too. No, they got so much good local food. They got so much good local food.
There's a couple really good steakhouses up there too. That I'll just promise Mrs. Evans food. Be like, hey, I'll come home with this, and this. Just let me go.
Nice. All right. Well, we made it through, and we kept it on the rails for the most part. Yeah.
I think we just need to brand this little. If the 3 of us get together, we just need to call it like the Hot Mess Express or something, and just just kind of assume like, hey, it's gonna, the train's going to try and keep it on the track, but occasionally it's gonna go somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
it's not if, it's when.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Not if, it's when. Oh,
hey, if you want to see a broadcast go off the rails, if Nick Sisson and I call a game like 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening, who knows what's going to be said.
Well, I'll make sure that I know who's called. I will have all 6 games going on at the same time, so I'll make sure that who's calling the game. I'll text one of you guys and be like, hey, which one are you calling, so I can have the sound on that one, just to make sure.
I'll send you the broadcast schedule.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. You can make all the necessary changes. You don't want to leave that up to Matthew.
Hey, we got a good team of broadcasters over there.
Seriously. Mm-hmm.
Jeff Weeks, we got Jeff Place is going to be
Oh,
there.
dude, Jeff Place is awesome.
Yeah, his voice kind of went out on him last year, so he kind of faded late in terms of play-by-play. He asked no more play-by-play because he was hanging on by a thread. But yeah, we had a great crew. Ryan Trotter might hop on for some games. Local guy, phenomenal voice. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice. Sal Kobar, baby.
Sal Kobar's back, ladies and gentlemen. My old man, Keith King, will be there. When I kind of just threw him to the wolves for his first play-by-play because I had to use the bathroom. But
no, dude, Keith had to carry the broadcast during one of the games last year when I woke up just feeling like death.
You gotta make sure you stay hydrated.
Oh my gosh. It was during an Ellensburg game, and I caught myself during the second quarter, and I'm just like, all right, anybody who knows me and knows how I broadcast a game, I am definitely disappointing you right now. I am so sorry because I feel like a zombie. And your dad's just like, do I need to like take over? And I'm like, no, I've got like a 32-ounce coffee that I'm going to get here, just waiting on it any second. So
there's one size of coffee in the Sun Dome, and it's very large.
The Yakima Valley Sun Dome. Yeah. By the way, Matt, when we were doing our football show, somebody typed into the live stream comment section that I could have their meal pass for that coach's room. Now, who the hell was that? Was that Danny? It wasn't. No, he was.
I think it was Danny.
But he's a 3A guy. He wouldn't be at the Yakima.
I don't remember who it was. Well,
he's gonna be at Tacoma.
Let's go review the footage.
Anyway, yeah, that
we're talking about Bellevue's not going to be at Tacoma. Wait, just kidding.
Yeah. We need it, Matthew. We need to figure out a way to get access to the actual like lunch and buffet, not being thrown up into the attic.
Just make sure that that you get there early, because the last time I was up there, it was like ham sandwiches and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, like it was decent, but
dude, we had 3-day-old McDonald's and Domino's delivered.
Yeah, those riders who are there covering like 2 local teams that have 3 hours between games, they demolish the good food before we
eat. Yeah, we have do-it-yourself sandwiches with like Wonder Bread.
There was a street taco place that used to be in there. They need to bring that back.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the one of my favorite memories going up to Tacoma for my school state tournament back in 2004, 2005. I lived on the hot dogs at the Tacoma Dome for like 3 days. And while it absolutely wrecked my gut, it was amazing it was just like, I walked up there and just like they already had it was amazing. Great hot dogs. Good hotel in Lakewood as well. Shout out Holiday Inn Express.
Nice.
2005.
Yeah. Did you pick the bracket right? No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Well, when we, I'll have to tell you guys when we have some time. I'll tell you the story about how when we were looking for a hotel, we may or may not have almost driven onto the Joint Base Lewis McChord, but that's a story for another day.
Well, I don't really think that I have anything else to add or contribute here. We've gone 3 hours. I can't believe that we filled up all this time.
I still got to go swing by and pick up a hot spot. So
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. It's Paul's, so it's the boss's. He's got to stay awake. He didn't leave it here for me, so.
Gotcha. Well, all righty, guys. Thanks so much for spending some time this evening doing this, and it's just always great to connect and
absolutely
bounce ideas off of one another. And I'm gonna do my Skip Bayless. It's my turn. No.
Can we have everyone type in the chat "boo Nick," please?
Yeah,
boo this man.
That's
at media_N2. Send him the boo this man GIF.
That's me.
And you'll get a follow. You'll get a follow from me if I don't already follow you.
I love how you said GIF. That's so awesome.
Isn't that how you say it?
That's GIF.
It's GIF. Whatever. kids in
feel
their
like
Jif's the
kids in their
peanut butter.
presentation.
I
It
feel like
is
you're
the peanut
trolling
butter.
right now.
What, me? I've
Yeah.
always called it a GIF.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It feels better. It feels better. I'm old too, so yeah, come on.
I'm
I
older.
teach English to kids. I teach English to kids for a living, okay? You know. I have to.
I'm
I can
still
get
cool and
pronunciations
hip.
wrong.
Yeah.
You still have
All
your
right.
hips though, you know.
Yeah.
I got some homemade lasagna waiting for me, gentlemen, so I'm going to go dig in.
Sounds
You can
good.
go find some food and get a hot spot.
I gotta
All
go
right,
tell my
regional
wife why
matchups.
I laughed at the 15 seed in 1A girls.
Yeah. Regional matchups start Friday and then roll all the way through Saturday. Matthew King will probably be on some calls. He didn't ask me to do any, so sorry, everybody. But we'll be back at the state tournament next week for sure. And
I need you to save that voice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'll be at UPS though.
Yeah, be sure. I'll just be there three-dimensionally watching, enjoying it, you know, not having to worry about impressing anybody, you know, that type of thing. So, all right. I'm Nick Sisson, Matthew King, Matt Evans. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Be sure to subscribe to all of us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you can find us. And we look forward to bringing you more entertaining action in the near future. Have a good evening.